Because I remember no harness, hugging tree.
Oh yeah. Well, that's why we're also good at hanging hang-ons. It's because of like, yeah, you with your tongue, you're like, yeah. HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Deer Grow.
Man, we've been using Deer Grow products for a long time. The Plot Start and Plot Boost, more recently Plot Till. Now we've got 3 new liquid fertilizers that have been put in the mix that will cover everything we could want for a food plot program.
It's huge, man. The more food plotting we do, it's like, man, the liquids just make sense. Like whether it's herbicides or the Plot Start and Plot Boost, and now the fertilizers getting mixed in. It's like, man, I can combine all of those in certain cases and do less passes for more results.
I mean, it's all about efficiency. I mean, like you said, less passes. If you're out there treating your beans with glyphosate in the summertime, you can mix in this fertilizer, do that all at once. You have the boost in there to help some metabolism. It's all about efficiency when we're talking about food plots. And really the big difference on these liquid fertilizers is you're bypassing some of these soil limitations, pH limitations, the soil type. In a lot of cases, we talk about dry fertilizers only being available for 17% of what you put down in the first year. These liquid fertilizers straight into the plant are 90% available in the first year. Huge difference in what you're going to see in growth.
It's huge. And so right now you can use code HUNTR15 for 15% off any of the Deer Grow products on their website. And as always,
better food plots, bigger deer. And we're back.
Heyo.
HUNTR Podcast, episode 195, as Nick keeps us in line. That takeout didn't sit well with you.
No, dude. My girlfriend got some shrimp lo mein last night. She never finished it, and she said, "Hey, why don't you take it for work tomorrow?" And scarfed it down and sitting heavy.
I think chicken lo mein trust. Shrimp lo mein?
Well, these shrimp are like the size of quarters. They were like not quality shrimp.
Straight out of the Giant Eagle frozen section.
You're looking for a bigger shrimp, a jumbo.
Yeah,
jumbo
it
shrimp.
Just one with some texture. It was just
Those are just kind of mushy.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Gross. Well, on that note, thank you guys for being here. Whether you're listening on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, we appreciate you guys being here. Give us a like, follow, or subscribe, whatever's appropriate for the channel. If you've written us on Instagram DM or the website, those are the 2 that we check most frequently, but we are, we're a little backed up. So, but we're trying to get back. I know some people have been like, hey, thanks, you wrote us back. So we're trying to do that.
We're pretty good with it.
And
Instagram's the best way. If you really want to get a hold of us, write us via Instagram.
You're pretty good on that. I've got several of you have written us on the website. I've got them flagged. I'll write you back here or something.
I'm trying on YouTube, but it's overwhelming.
Yeah, we don't do YouTube. So we'll have some comments from here and there, but
come on in, Finn.
Come on in, Finn. And other than that, here we go.
Yep. Finn also in studio. We have in studio guests today. So perfect. We got Kev from Trad Geeks. Kev, Pennsylvania boy as well, representing. So it's always nice when we kind of get guys from our region. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons that, we get kind of the attention that we get from a podcast standpoint is, we're Pennsylvania guys. Obviously, Jared and I hunt Ohio and Kentucky and Illinois too. But our roots and kind of what we're familiar with are from here. And sometimes I think this area becomes the outcast, from a whitetail side, right? Even though Pennsylvania has probably got one of the deepest traditions, of all the whitetail states, it's not Iowa or Illinois or Missouri or Kansas or whatever it is.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. Like, I'm honored to be here. It's been a while. I've kind of been out of the game for a little while and let Trad Geeks kind of not fall to the wayside, but just different priorities now. And so I'm honored to be here.
Yeah. Well, kind of for us too. I mean, because we've known each other remotely for several years
We've
now.
Crossed paths.
We were trying to figure out where that was. I mean, it was a direct crossing.
It was a crossing. Yeah. We did like a photo video shoot or something around it.
You guys had a few guys come to my farm and do some video and photo stuff. I didn't realize you guys were behind the scenes on it. I just knew the guys that came, but it was fun and still rocking some of that gear and it was a good time. It was a great time of my life. Kind of sad to see that kind of
because it's been away. What is that, 4 or 5 years at least?
I'd say 3.
Yeah,
probably 3 years ago.
Okay,
maybe 3.5. And I still keep my social media stuff updated from time to time. But I literally have taken a step completely away from it, just focusing on my kids and my career. And, you build some things that are awesome and you get them to a point you never thought you could, which was Trad Geeks. But you get to that point where it's like you have to pick your path to dedicate your time. And I just chose to go a different route. And here we are. So.
Well, I mean, for background for us, so are born and raised Pennsylvania guy?
Yeah, born and raised in a small town of Punxsutawney, PA.
Yeah, yeah.
Old Punxsy.
Yeah, Punxsutawney Phil, Groundhog Day. That's the original right there.
Yeah, you can't go anywhere without anyone knowing about it, right? But yeah, it's a great small town, and I grew up just hunting with my father, rifle hunting. He was never a bow hunter, and I was like that type of kid at 10 years old. I wanted to be in the woods, and I couldn't get enough of it. So grew up rifle hunting, and then got picked up bow hunting probably when I was 16 on my own without any help from anybody.
Wow.
So I truly put myself through the test of learning how to hunt with a bow, and missed my fair share, but
sure.
Was that with a compound?
That was with a compound initially. Yeah. So
nobody in your family hunted with a bow?
Nobody. Friends did in school, but I was a baseball player, so I focused a lot on that, and then just picked up the bow on my own. And my cousin did hunt a little bit with a compound, so maybe once a year I'd get out with him, but other than that, it was just on my own. And
is that like, you think industry info, like magazines, like, or
no?
As far as like, oh, hey, guys are bow hunting, I could do this.
Yeah, honestly, I think my cousin was probably an influence on that. And my friends at school were just like, they were hunting all the time,
right?
In archery season,
and you're
like,
kind of just sitting on
I'm
the
waiting
sidelines.
for 1 week out of the year or 2 weeks out of the year to hunt. This is crazy. So then that's when I got into it, and one thing led to another, and I haven't looked back since. I don't even care to rifle hunt. So
well, it seems like a kind of a, at that point, I won't put you on the spot for time of life that was in year, but I graduated high school in 03. Yeah, 03. Yeah. And so like that, I think I started bow hunting. I didn't hunt with a bow my first year, mainly because my dad was an archer, and he was like, hey, you're not ready, when I was 12.
And yourself? Really?
Yeah, he's like, you're not ready. And he started me with a recurve.
Did you think you were ready? Was that like
No, really? I didn't think so. In fact, I would say the majority of my 12-year-old archery experience was just with a recurve, just being out and like shooting in the backyard, doing bow stuff. I didn't get my first compound until I was 13, at which point then I became ready. I shot my first deer that year. But it was a weird time, because I reflect on it now. You were talking about your kids' age, like mine are 12 and 8, right? Boys. And like, my 8-year-old, barring he's small, is like, he's ready. Like he definitely is. My 12-year-old, I don't know, maybe, but like also I'm not quite sure, and that's a personality thing.
Not that he's not ready, because he's killed someone with a crossbow, but he's is he hungry for it? Exactly,
because it's different to like sit there and whether it's a gun or a crossbow in the scope, pull the trigger, it's dead. Like. He's got it right now. He's got to be out there shooting the target and practicing and stuff. And I just don't know. Like, there's other priorities in life. Yeah. And so he would do it, but kind of in the same way my dad was with me. I'd be like, well, I don't know if you're ready to be out there and actually let you put an arrow at a deer, because that's a big step over the target.
Commitment. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I graduated in 02, so it was probably the same era.
Yeah.
And just fell in love with the sport of bow hunting from there, and hunted with a compound till it would have been 2011.
Okay.
And shot a deer with a compound one day, and my buddy was hunting with a recurve, and I shot a deer, and I was like, oh, that was cool. And it was a decent deer. It's probably a 120-inch deer. At that time, it was probably the best buck I've ever killed. So I was stoked, but I was just like, And my buddy hunted with a recurve. I was like, all right. So I sold it, picked up a recurve, and hunted with a recurve up until last year. So, and then grew Trad Geeks from there. But we can get into that, but it
a challenge mindset? Is that what?
Yeah, it's always a challenge mindset for me.
Yeah, same.
I'm super competitive. Anyone can tell you that, but it was a challenge my buddy was doing. I was like, all right, I got to do it.
Yeah.
And
what makes this harder, but I'm going to love it more type of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And it takes a big commitment, in my opinion. That's kind of why I went back to a compound here as of last year. Just the time commitment it took, and I'm pretty anal. Like if I'm not exactly hitting where I want to hit and not confident, I don't want to take it.
Yeah.
And therefore I hunted with it for 12 years straight. I think I was super confident. Like 35 yards, I wouldn't even question me to take a shot.
Really?
Yeah.
That's wild, man.
How long did you hunt with a compound before you thought about switching or made to switch?
So it had been 2011. I started when I was 16.
It's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time. I couldn't do that. I mean, I'm 40 now, so it'd have been.
So it was like 15 or 20
You were
15
in
years
your-
or so.
Yeah, 15 years or so.
15 years.
Of
Yeah.
compound hunting before. And that seems,
Yeah.
for a lot of guys, I think that's probably how it is because you know, if you want to get into archery, you also want some success, right? Like,
Yeah.
And then when the success, I won't say comes easy because it never really does, but when it becomes more consistent, maybe, then you're like, well, what's the next game changer for me?
That's a great point, and that's kind of why I went back to a compound. I hunted with a trad bow for 11, 12 years and killed a lot of things. Like I was killing a buck every year in PA.
Yeah.
And went out west, killed an elk, killed a couple hogs, mule deer. But I started going on these west trips, and you get one trip a year is all I'd get.
Right.
And I had so many opportunities of good animals that I'd have rather killed them with a compound.
Sure.
And I got to that point where I was like, you know what? I don't need to prove anything anymore. And Finn was getting to the age where he's like, Dad, I wouldn't mind picking up a compound instead of a recurve. I was like, let's do it. And he always followed in my footsteps. So if I was hunting with a trad bow, he wanted to. And he found success with it too. So it was kind of just at that point where it's like, hey, let's give this a shot again. And I'm loving shooting my compound just as much as I did my trad bow for the last 12, 13 years. So yeah. It's cool.
Yeah. Well, no offense to Finn because my Carter and Harlan, my kids are in the same boat. It's like Dad's hunting time decreases a lot when the kids go. And that's the cycle, right? My dad did it.
Is.
Now we do it. And for good reason, because it's a short time frame that they're under your roof to have that experience and expertise before they're out on their own to do that. So
I think last year I might have hunted 5 times without him.
Yep.
Because he loves to go. And
Yeah.
with the mobile gear now, like I'll hang 2 set and like we're mobile and I'll hang a double set every single time and he's with me and he
That's
gets
awesome.
first opportunity, and we'd take one bow. And it got to the point where I had a trad bow built for him that would have different arrows in the quiver so that we could, because you can only legally hunt with one weapon as a junior hunting.
Yeah.
So we'd have 2 arrows in the quiver and it'd be a different draw weight but I knew enough bowyers that I had this bow built that we could both kill something with it.
That's cool.
And so that's what we did. Yeah, it was fun. But now it's to the point where like he's ready to step up his game. I'm ready to be confident when I go in the woods.
Sure.
In what way? What do you mean step up the game? I thought it was, to prelude that question, I thought it was interesting because it's like some guys decide, like you did, hey, I'm up for more of a challenge. And so I don't know how to say this other than the alternative being like maybe the class of animal. And
yeah. And that's it in a nutshell. Like there's so many, as you go through life, I feel like your priorities change. And before it was, I always wanted to kill good deer and big deer, but my time is so limited now that I'd manage my property because I have a nice 44 acres in the country and we manage it for deer, and I'd grow really nice deer, and I'm competing against the neighbors and Amish and crossbows and all that, where I'd let these deer get to 4 or 5 years old and then the neighbor would kill them, but I passed them. I guess I could say I passed them, but I didn't pass them with my recurve.
Right.
Because I didn't want to wound him and didn't want to take an unethical shot. And I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm going to get my compound. And when he walks by a 40, I'm going to smoke him.
Yep.
So that's where my mindset's at now, because I'm so limited on time, like literally hunting 4 or 5 times a year without him, because he's my first priority. So, and if that deer walked by him, he'd shoot it. Like,
Sure.
I don't, you know what I mean? But he's good at shooting a 6-pointer and 8-point. He doesn't care how big it is at this point. So just priorities change, I think, as you age, and time's the biggest thing. I would literally shoot my bow every single day for probably an hour at least, because I enjoyed it to not shooting it at all. And then I'd pick it up and shoot a few arrows before I went hunting. I'm like, this isn't good. Like, I don't feel confident. And I hit a big bull in Colorado with my buddy on an over-the-counter hunt. It was probably a 330 bull, and I hit him in the shoulder at 10 yards because I had to hold. So the story is like this bull was coming in just after my buddy arrowed a bull, and he was coming up the mountain. Well, he saw this bull raking, and he got me, and I went down and got set up. He went back and called, and this bull came up the mountain. And I was like, when I see his fronts, I'm going to draw. So he's coming, because you know how quick they move through the wood. So when I saw his fronts, I drew, and he crested. I was like, all right, I'm going to shoot him there. And he stopped right short of that line. So it was like 20 yards. He stopped and was looking around. His vitals were all covered, and all I could see was his head. I was like, all right, and I'm holding like roughly 53 pounds, and there's no let off of the
For how long now?
This was probably 30 seconds at that point.
Whoa.
And if I'd have let down, he'd have blew.
Yeah, he'd have gotcha.
So I was like, all right. And I'm, with a recurve, you creep at all or collapse at all, you're done.
You're done, yeah.
So I'm holding back tension as long as I can. And then I run a clicker. So a clicker is you get to your back wall.
Real quick, I'm sorry to cut you off. You said 53 pounds, what you're holding?
Yeah.
That's Bomar's holding 25 at 90 with 75% let off. It's more than double.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a lot. That's a lot.
It's a lot of weight, right? So
that's why
typically,
most are snap shooting, right? Because they're not holding anything on the back wall.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Is like, what is the preferred time to hold? Like nothing, right?
No. So, I'm sure you guys follow Joel Turner and Shot IQ, and Joel and I are good friends, and he's helped me significantly through my shooting, as well as Tom Klum and those guys. So. I mean, I kind of, as they gained in popularity, I was gaining in popularity and in the industry with shooting and stuff like that. So I spent a lot of time with them at ETAR and different things. So, obviously you want to run a shot process. So you get back to anchor. And then once you get back to anchor, you engage your back. And once you engage and you set your sight, this is my shot process. You set it and you say, watch it, keep it, here I go, pull, until you hit your clicker or sear or whatever your psycho trigger is. No, it's just fingers.
Okay.
So a clicker is a draw cord that comes down, and then there's a little clicker on the limb. So when you get to your back tension, you have you want it set for less than 1/4 of an inch movement. So very minute, not 1/4 inch. Like an 1/8 or 16th, small movement. So you literally could breathe and get this clicker to go off. And the string goes to a little metal piece that when you get that clicker to go, it's your sear, just like on a gun, that's your break.
Oh, so that's it. So there's a delay, right? Reaction time of you hear it and then you're breaking.
It's pretty instant.
Yeah.
You get into that shot where you're just
rhythm.
Expand, click, boom. And
it's like a clicker on a release, right?
Essentially,
but it's not your release.
Exactly. You still got to let go with your fingers, but it helps you break.
That's what tells you where
the shot, and then it keeps your draw length the same.
The same, right?
Versus a ton of variance, which causes a lot of issues.
Yep.
So long, he's in that window, and I'm running my shot. He steps through it. He went through it so fast I didn't get a chance, and he came to another stop. So this seemed like an eternity. It was probably only 45 seconds to a minute.
Still an eternity.
But when
he 53 pounds,
when he got to that spot, my buddy called, and he turned and looked at me and bugled in my face. And I was so tired. I was just like, oh my God. And I collapsed, and I watched the arrow just go right into his shoulder and penetrate that much. And I'm like, a once in a lifetime type of deal on an over the counter hunt for me on a bull like that, which it's probably not a once in a lifetime, but for me in that moment it was.
Yeah. At that range.
At that range.
From us, from PA,
all you can think about is if I had a compound.
Dead.
It's dead, no problem. You can hold all day. And that proceeded to happen the next 3 years multiple times where I'd get drawn on a bull and then I had to let down because I couldn't hold any longer, and then they'd see me let down.
And that becomes a mental, just a beat down.
It does. And 3 years out there, 3-4 years out there. And I did end up killing a cow elk with Matt Davis in Utah, which was an awesome hunt. But, we go out there for a week, you might have 4, 5, 6 opportunities if you're lucky. And on even having a chance to draw on a bull. So it was just it wore on me, and it still does to this day. And I'm like, you know what? And then there was a mule deer in South Dakota at 35 yards I shot under that was probably a 200-inch mule deer over the counter. And we hunted a week, and had that one opportunity. And my buddy Aaron Emhoff, he's kind of who got me into trad, and my buddy Derek. Aaron's had numerous opportunities like that as well. And we always said, like, man, if we would have just had a compound. So I'm to that point now. I'm just like, the sport kind of grew in the traditional archery community for a long, long time there, and it was going up. And I think it probably still is, but I'm just excited to kind of be a sniper again, like that's how I feel.
Here, I may ask some like negligible questions when it comes to like recurve, because I've never hunted with one. I've shot some just like in fun, buddies have had them or whatever, but is it possible to, it seems like you could achieve less time from starting to draw to releasing the shot than you could with a compound. Doesn't it seem like you would, am I right or wrong about that?
No, you're exactly right. And it's a tool, like there's instances I'd rather have a recurve than my compound for sure. Especially like close 5-yard shots on a whitetail.
Just draw like,
I killed a buck 2 years ago, 6 feet off the ground at 5 yards coming into a scrape. And he had no clue I was there. I had a big, nice cherry covered. I watched him come across the field, and it was literally draw, click, boom, smoked. And like, it was getting dark. I didn't have to worry about pins. I didn't have to worry about yardage.
5
you
yards
just
like
shot a lot. You just shot a lot. It was like
there's almost muscle memory there.
Yeah. So there's times, and I kind of got Cody DeQuisto into trad now, and Cody's been loving it.
Yep.
And that's why, because he gets so close with animals, and he spends a lot of time in the woods. So it's nice for him. And
you're saying you got Cody into trad?
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, well, yes and no. So Cody,
you can take credit for it. I just didn't know that.
No, yeah. Cody picked up a longbow prior to knowing me or meeting me, hunted with it for like one late season, and went back to compound. And then Cody and I met up, and I kept bringing it. He's like, dude, I want to do it. Dude, I want to do it. And then he came to, so the first mobile road show they had at my house in Marion Center. And so Cody came over with his crew, and we just talked over the fire, and I cooked him steaks that night, and he was shooting my bow and picked it up. He's like, dude, I want to do it. And I was like, all right, well, I'll hook you up with Steve Jewett, which is the owner of Bushman Bows. And Steve and I are really good friends. I was like, Steve, you need to get Cody a bow. So Cody's like, yep, just hook me up. So Steve built him a bow. Now Steve and Cody are doing all kinds of things on their own, and and he hasn't looked back since.
Yeah.
Like, he loves it. So I like to think I kind of influenced him a little bit.
Sure you did.
To like, he wanted to do it, but he wouldn't.
He's got
take
that mindset,
leap.
doesn't he?
Yeah.
You can tell the people that do, they're just looking for what's next, what's deeper.
Yeah, now his new bow is like, I think it's like 46 or 48 inches. It's super little.
Really?
He's walking around with it in his pocket.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like, it's cool to see that kind of stuff happen and have a little influence in it,
Yeah.
for people like that. So,
Absolutely. Just to go back real quick, I guess what I was asking, as far as like, it sounds like you lost out on a lot of opportunities because you were having to hold too long. I'm having a hard time understanding, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, couldn't you draw and shoot like almost instantly? Like, it's a much faster process than with a compound.
That's called snap shooting.
Okay.
And
there's
guys that snap shoot for sure.
I think Jay Gregory was one of them. He was telling us.
And I definitely could with that elk. I could have snapshot, but you're also, that's where you got to be in really good cover, right? Like, that bull's 15, 20 yards walking through a window, and you're moving.
Yeah, he's going to see it.
He's going to see you, and he can will on you like that. And we've had it happen. I've had it happen with whitetail. So my theory on it was, and rookie elk hunter, even though I've killed him, I still feel like I'm a rookie. I could go out there for 15 years and still feel like I'm a rookie. Was, hey, let's draw when he's not seeing me. I'm going to shoot him right here. And in a perfect world, it would have worked out, but he stopped short of that. You know what I mean? If he'd have taken one more step, he was dead.
If it always worked out perfect, then we wouldn't be having the conversation.
So,
well, the idea, I mean, even to translate it to compound, is like the idea of, and I can relate it to an elk story too. I'm not a great elk hunter by any means. I've killed 2 of them with both with a compound, and I had really good direction both times. So we hunted with an outfitter, but it was the same outfit both times, and the kid that was guiding me is my age. Yeah. And so it kind of was like a really cool, they almost were just more like some friends had horses and took us out. The first one I was 15 years old, and the next one was 2 years ago. I shot like a 280, a really nice bull in my opinion, a 5-year-old bull. And the advice that he gave me in regards to that was when he comes in, he said, don't try to draw when he's coming in. Wait until he's in the window that you're going to shoot him at. And his thinking was, he's like, he's going to see you. He'll, no matter what, he'll see you. Wait until he's where you want to shoot him and then draw and shoot him.
And I wish I would have known that.
And that's, well, whether that's right or wrong, better elk hunter can tell us, but that's what I did. And he was like 25 yards, and so when I say 20, who knows? It was like straight uphill.
Yeah.
And he was circling back down to pick up his cows that he thought we were, and my Rusty and my dad were like 34 yards down behind me, so they could see the whole thing. And they come in, and he came all the way, and I waited. And this is how I am with whitetails too. I'm not a hold. I don't hold. I draw, and I'm on them, and I shoot. Best case scenario for anybody, obviously. But that's what I did. I drew right when he was in the window, and he didn't see me, actually. He didn't see me. I mewed at him. It probably sounded like stupid when Merrow. And he stopped, and he kind of took a step towards me and like looked down, and then I drove it right through his shoulder, and it worked out. Mm-hmm. But anyways, that was the advice that was given to me as far as when to draw on an elk.
Situational and individual animal, like just like a whitetail. Like there's plenty of whitetails where I'm like, man, I got to draw here, and he's gonna see me, and I draw, and he doesn't do anything. There's other ones where I'm like, there's no way, and I draw on him, and then he's gone. I'm like, what?
Go with me for a moment. That moment is so intense. Like it's pure instinct to know when to draw your bow. That's one of the.
I feel like it just happens.
One of the hardest skills. It just happens.
For me, it just happens. And like thinking back through my hunts now, like that buck that I killed at 5 yards, 6 yards off, like literally 6 feet off the ground, I drew when he was right there.
Yeah, right on it. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. It happened to me 3 times with elk. And I don't know if it's just my inexperience with elk and how fast they move through.
Yep.
Or what.
They're so quiet too. How such a big animal so quiet.
I had another one come in. It was just a raghorn, but I was going to shoot him. He was coming in, he came in, and he was coming straight at me, and I waited longer and drew, and when he stopped, there was a sapling going right up through his chest, like right up through the middle. And like I was going to do a frontal shot on him. I couldn't shoot because of that sapling. And I held and let down, and he blew. Like,
yeah. See, that seems like worst case scenario to me as not a traditional bow hunter. I would never want to be in a situation where I'm holding my trad bow back for longer than 10 seconds, 10 seconds.
I think that is the issue because I'm kind of like in between right now. Coming from a compound and wanting to shoot trad, I find myself thinking like a compound guy and being like, okay, I'm going to get back, I'm going to anchor, I'm going to hold. And by the time I think that, I've already been holding too long on a traditional bow.
Yeah, it's roughly 2 seconds.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
like for my shot process,
would be ideal. Yeah, to go through
to break through and run through my process, roughly 2 to 3 seconds.
Yep.
The more that I shot trad, the less poundage I wanted.
Sure.
When I first started, I was super heavy because you wanted it to rip through your fingers and not have as much plucking. And now like 40 pounds is plenty.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. So like I have that Hoyt Satori recurve that I've been just playing around with and shooting. And like I like it, but like it feels super heavy for me.
What is it? What is the poundage?
It's like 55.
Yeah, that's heavy.
Yep. And so
do you have one of those clickers on it?
No.
Okay. Is that common to have those?
Yeah, it's pretty common in the traditional world.
Yeah, and there's people inexperienced traditional.
Yeah,
guy,
there's people that frown on them, like the elitists.
Right, cheating.
We can go into that stuff. But,
yeah.
Sorry, I cut you.
No, you're fine. So I bought is it Tolkien?
Mm-hmm.
I bought a Tolkien longbow, a Pika 56-inch, which is like 46, and it's like feels like butter.
Yeah.
But and I'm inexperienced enough. Like there are advantages and disadvantages from recurve to longbow, right? From speed and stuff.
There's some forgiveness differences. Recurve's a little more forgiving, so they say. But I personally like a longbow better than a recurve.
No, I say all that, and like at this point, like I don't think I'd ever take a shot over 15 yards from my skill level and just confidence and
most people that I know, I think that's kind of like a standard are like, hey, 15, 20 at max and in. Is that right? Wrong?
No, you're right. Like you want them close and personal with a recurve. Like less room for air, less room for the animal to move. Same with a compound. Like There's guys with a compound that won't take a shot over 40.
I mean, the 90% of the bucks I've killed with a compound are inside of 30.
Inside of even 20.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, they're usually right there. I mean, what can you expect? I mean, if you practice and you have good equipment, like what is a reasonable grouping at 20, 30, even 40 yards with traditional equipment?
Put it this way, when I picked up a compound last year, I was shooting it worse than my recurve.
Okay.
Like,
really?
That's how proficient.
Well, I don't know how bad you shoot a compound.
True.
You're shooting a Matthews, so that must be pretty bad.
Yeah, it's you can be super proficient with it. Like I would say softball size groups at 25 is no problem.
Wow.
I don't know. Finn can attest to that. Like he's shooting those same size of groups as I am.
What's his draw weight on his?
That's questionable.
Yeah.
You know? So it's all based off inches, right? So measuring his inches, pulling back the bow, seeing where it's at. He has a Wingard Ibex, and it's 38 pounds at 28, I think.
Okay, 38. Yep.
Yeah,
because I mean that's Finn, you're not a big kid. Like you know why I say that.
So with his compound now, he's drawn like 43.
Wait. You can't hit a softball size with your Matthews at 25 yards?
Oh, now I can. I'm saying when I took my recurve, and my buddy gave me his elite. He's like, here, just shoot it.
Yeah.
When I first started shooting it, at 25 yards, I was shooting better with my compound.
Yeah, well, I haven't practiced
for like the first week.
Just a whole different
Now I'm out
mindset.
at 50, 60 yards shooting ping pong ball.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Hoyt.
What can we say, man? Another year back with Hoyt. We're both shooting RX8s. I'm shooting 70 pounds in the bourbon, which I love bourbon.
It's great.
And you're shooting 80 pounds in the straight black.
Blacked out as always, man. I got so I'm shooting the 500 grain Easton Arrow this year. And at 80 pounds, I'm flinging that thing at like 300 feet per second. I mean, it's deadly. Put a water buffalo in front of me and he's done.
I mean, we shot it earlier. You literally put an arrow through a brand new target, like never been shot before.
I know. So one other thing that Hoyt is doing this year is they're making all their own strings in-house. And so the quality is top notch, and it just really is something that is setting them apart from their competitors.
Well, what we always try to do when we go to our bow shop, Ultimate Outdoors, is we try to shoot other bows just to make sure that we are really giving everybody a fair chance. Sure. The reality is it's a no-brainer. Hoyt stands above all of them every single time.
Definitely. And so right now you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, for 20% off any apparel on the Hoyt website. And as always,
get serious, get Hoyt.
So what about, and we'll just use you as the benchmark because you're here.
You're the benchmark.
Have you ever shot at 40 yards? Like, I guess so.
Yeah, there's a doe, well, not 40.
At a target, I mean, a target.
With the recurve?
Recurve. Mm-hmm.
Oh, 100, yeah.
Okay, so like at 40 yards, what would be a grouping you'd be happy with?
Pie plate?
A pie plate, yeah.
Yeah, I would be.
Yeah,
but other
40 yards is
would,
a long way out there with no sight, right?
That's a poke, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's guys that are way back. I mean, if you ever pull up Joel Turner and watch him shoot a recurve, he's dropping bombs at 80 and he can lay it in there just like anybody. Like, it's insane.
Wow.
It's insane. And I've done it. Like, I've popped balloons at 85, 90 yards within one or two arrows.
Wow.
So but it's just the delay is so long.
Yeah, sure.
Like that animal can move so much. But like Howard Hill killed a elk, I think it was recorded at 130 yards with a longbow or something like that.
Wow. Holy cow.
And there's no sight, right? It's basically line of sight. You're looking down the arrow.
Yeah, so there's different aiming methods.
I told you I was going to ask some stupid questions about trad stuff.
No, this is good. The Push did a really good job, there's a really good video on all the different
They do some cool stuff.
methods.
They're still making films, right?
Yeah, Matt's still doing some stuff with it. But there's you can use your arrow for gap. So you use it as a reference. So like for me, most of my setups, 35 yards or 38 yards was point on, meaning I could take my field tip, put it on the target, and use it as a pin.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd hit right where I'm aiming. So for me, I'd try to get a setup where anything inside of, say, 25 yards would be an instinctive shot. I wouldn't have much of an awareness of where my tip was. It was just a sight picture that you're used to.
Yep.
And you shot off of that.
Yep.
And I'd still do that with my compound to some degree instead of just moving the pin.
Sure.
So it's kind of that But anything beyond that, I would use the arrow for reference.
Mm-hmm.
So I would always try to get it in without changing. It's so complex. You can change your the way you address your string, and they call it string walking, and you can creep down the string to change your point on. And then people will have marks on their string to use their pin as their arrow as a reference for every distance.
Yeah.
So guys would set it up where
I'm just laughing to myself. You know about I could see in your hand like the technique that I obviously don't have.
That's what I was.
I'm like, this freaking guy knows how to shoot a bow.
What one up, two low? Like what's your hand?
So it's funny. I actually shoot 2 under.
You do.
So my buddy
nothing over, just straight.
Yeah, just 2 under.
Wow.
So I actually, when I had Trad Geeks, I made these custom tabs out of carbon fiber and Cordovan. So we'd shoot with 2, and we'd make a 2-finger tab for shooters that were 2 under, which is not too many people.
Yeah, I've never.
Would you call me a 2 over 1 under?
Yeah,
I'd have to shoot left-handed though.
Yeah, that's funny. So a lot of people that hunt shoot 3 under, but then you can shoot split, which is 1 over and 2 under.
Yeah, which is what I do.
Yeah,
I shoot 1 over 2 under,
and that all changes your.
I don't know why. Like.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's a reason why I do
Jeremy
that.
hasn't had any formal training.
No,
just
backyard. I'm just winging in the backyard.
What's crazy is people think, oh, you pick up a stick and string traditional bow. It's simple. It's easy. It's complex. Dude, it's more complex than a compound.
Yeah.
And the one thing I love about it is it really taught me how to shoot a bow.
Mm-hmm.
Really taught me how to tune an arrow. So now I think it's insane that guys tune their compounds to the arrow. That doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, why not just set everything to 0 and tune your arrow to your bow?
Yeah.
So that's how I do it.
What do you mean? What's the difference? Tuning an arrow?
Because you can't tune much of a trad bow.
So they make plungers.
You're saying you tune your arrow to the bow?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess we don't. We build the arrow and then tune the bow.
Yep.
Okay.
Which doesn't make sense to me. Why wouldn't you want the bow to be perfect?
The answer probably is because the compound bows are more tunable than a recurve bow.
Yep.
But exactly. But things aren't then dead center. So like,
if
you're not getting the most efficiency
like
out of that bow if you're adjusting the bow.
Right. Yeah, shimming cams, whatever.
So I just align everything to 0, put my bubbles to 0, and then tune my arrow to the bow.
So then what does tuning your arrow look like?
So you bear shaft tune, you cut down the arrow.
Okay.
Just slowly. You get the right spine, cut down the arrow, and add weight where you need it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yep.
So if if I have a weak arrow or a stiff arrow,
I've never considered that.
I might just add 50 grains, or I may take a 1/4 inch off. Or
why don't we do that?
I don't know. That's what drives me crazy.
I'm sure something caused that to be the standard. I would assume.
I don't know.
For
instance,
I feel like that would benefit us for guys who because we don't work on our own bows.
The answer is
hardly at all.
Yeah.
We do work on our arrows.
Probably tunability based off of a standard of an arrow. So like most bow shops we're dealing with 350 grain maximum blues. So they're like, okay, let's just tune the bows.
The arrow is all,
It's crazy to me. That's for sure. For instance, I got this new lift, set everything to 0, grabbed a 350 spine, put 125 grains up front, went out and shot it. Within 3 shots, I had that arrow tuned shooting bullet holes, and I never even touched the bow. And that was with my buddy. I just went back to his house because he lives right next to me. I was like, let's see what this thing's doing through paper. And we just...
And then are you mass reproducing those arrows, or is each arrow...
So I build one to it, and then I...
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not actually tuning each arrow?
Knock tuning a little bit, but other than that, no.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean,
makes sense.
But that's because I came from trad.
Sure.
And that's all we could do.
Yeah, there was nothing else to do.
In some ways, we try to do that. I think it's fairly common knowledge that you're like, well, I don't want to buy an 80 pounds and back it off and shoot it at 75 pounds. That would be an example of having it maxed out, right? Right?
Yeah.
Or, but short of that. Well, and frankly, Jeremy and I are, we lack in that department as far as I've been going to the same bow shop since I was 10, and that probably instilled in me just a confidence to where I'm I want to know, but I'm it's just like we were talking earlier. It's okay, do I go to trad or do I go to different states and shoot different bucks? I just chose we chose different paths. Like we focus more on the land management aspect of it. But
we do focus on our arrows. Like the thought process behind the arrow build and what we're doing is pretty much in our wheelhouse.
Well, we build the best arrow we know how, but it's not tuned to the bow.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, I think in the grand scheme of things, none of it even matters personally. Like with the setups now, they're killing stuff.
Yeah.
Whether the arrow's perfectly tuned or not, like it all comes down to shot placement.
Yeah. I mean, 30 yards in on most of those whitetail shots. So,
I mean, I used to kill stuff all the time and I didn't know any of this stuff. So it's like,
yeah, same. Still do.
You know, for me though, coming from trad to compound now, I'm like, dude, I got to get a press. Like this is driving me crazy because I want to tinker. I want to do stuff. I enjoy doing that. So I hate running to a bow shop to
that makes sense.
Work on. So, but yeah, back to the traditional stuff. I mean, you can really dive into the weeds with it and have fun with it. So
there's a lot of frustrations too with it.
Yeah.
Like there are days that I shoot really well and I'm just like, you know, to the point of 12-year-old me, I'm like, okay, I wasn't ready. Now I am ready. Then the next day I'll go out and just blow it up. And I'm like, what the hell? And then I'm thinking like, I'm going to be ice cold in the stand when that one shot opportunity.
Oh yeah. Start adding clothing and everything else. It changes the game.
Yeah. And I'm just like, and again, maybe it's coming from a compound mindset. It's like, I feel really good all the time, cold shots or not, with my compound because of, all the advantages it has. And then I take a cold shot with my longbow or my recurve and I'm like, that would have been terrible. I would have put it in the guts. Hopefully I would have clean missed, but odds are I would have wounded and I just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Did you ever shoot compound bows like during the time that you were just only hunting with a trad bow?
So,
or were you like Walt Disney in an ice chamber and you came out and now you got this new lift and the last bow you shot was 20 years ago and it's like,
yeah, dude, it's insane. It's insane. No, I did shoot one time. So it was a good few years ago. I went down, met up with Wade James. You guys know Wade?
Yeah, we know Wade.
So I went down with Wade.
We know him?
Wade's he's a Pennsylvania guy.
Yeah, he's from Johnstown area.
Okay.
Photographer.
Okay.
So Wade and I were doing some type of project together. I can't remember what it was. And we became good friends over the years. And he's like, come down and just shoot with me someday. And he was starting to get into trad a little bit. I was like, all right. And he's like, here, you got to shoot this. And I'm like, dude, I haven't shot a compound in like 8 years. Like, I don't even know how to pull this thing back. And I shot it there a couple of times. But other than that, no, I
just totally cold turkey out of it.
So it was pretty wild getting back into it then.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it's impressive what they. I mean, guys have a valid argument. What I mean? So we talk about the crossbow sometimes and how they were part of the archery season, and that the trad bow hunters surely felt the same way when they were introducing compounds to the season. And it's like, yeah, fair argument. They've come a freaking long way. They're deadly.
Yeah, I never looked like when I went into the traditional archery community. It was for more of a challenge, right? Like, get into the trad stuff. And then I saw a moment to kind of capitalize on it because there was nobody doing it. So I kind of built Trad Geeks around that and marketing and all that, which was fun. And it was great, but we never now all my podcasts, I don't even know if they're still up because I let everything just lapse on the website. But we never once were like, oh, those compound guys. Like
guys.
We were never those guys. Like we were wearing Sitka and running cell cams and hunting with a trad bow. And now I look back and I'm like, that was so stupid. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of both. Now I'm wearing solids and I don't care if I'm still in my khakis from work and going with compounds.
It's such a cool spot because like where I find myself is like, I love shooting. We shoot Hoyt. I love shooting my Hoyt. I love shooting compound. I feel so confident with it. Like if I'm in a tree and he's 30 and in, like he's dead. Like it's just an automatic. Like early in the season, that's where my mindset is. But even like this year, like unless it's a buck that I'm just like, this is like a once in a lifetime type buck. Like I immediately am like, man, it'd be so cool to kill that buck with a trad bow, just for the challenge. Now there's a point in the season that frustration then sits in and it's like, okay, how many opportunities have I missed and I should have the compound or whatever. But, it's just lurking there for just, again, something. And I don't want to sound like cocky about it to where it's like, well, it's so easy to go kill a buck with a compound bow, because it's not, especially if you're hunting mature deer and you're targeting a specific deer. But like, it sounds stupid, but we talk about all the time. It's like, dude, I don't want my season to end. Mm-hmm. Like if I go out on opening day and I kill my target buck and then I'm just like, now what? Yeah. Like I just don't want it to end. So I almost would rather struggle through the entire season just to be like, yep, hunted the whole season, experienced the whole season. Fortunately, we have other states to do that and stuff. But you know, that's my, and I think a lot of guys listening to that have a similar mindset. It's like, you want to be successful, you want to kill that buck, but you don't want your season to be done early.
Mm-hmm. There's so many guys that dabble with both, like hunt with compound and trad bows. And I'm like the all or in or nothing. Like literally,
dude, that's how I feel about it.
I had 5 or 6 trad bows on my wall, all really nice bows. And I'd sit there and be like, I feel sorry. I haven't shot that bow in a while. Mm-hmm. Like, which bow am I going to take? Like so indecisive, like back and forth, like to the point where I had a compound and a trad bow. And I was like, this is driving me crazy. I'm just going to have I don't own a trad bow right now.
Really?
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I would do the same thing.
You'd fall into it.
And I like to be focused and driven on one thing. So like, I'm sure I'll go back to a trad bow eventually, but for now,
dude,
like I'm content.
Honestly, I feel kind of the same way about it. Like it's probably not to the level of like it matters that much, but between hang on tree stands and saddles, like, cause I've hunted with a hang on forever and I've gotten really proficient at it. Again, it doesn't require the level of practice and stuff that a traditional bow would, but it's, you know, it's a process. It's a thought process. Like from the moment I see the tree, you know, my thought process is, here's how I'm going to do it. Here's how that's going to work. Here's how I'm going to hunt from it. And for a while, like, you know, the saddles are kind of like you know, have come back into whatever craze or whatever within the past couple of years. And I'm like, okay, I mean, seems like a tool to have in the tool belt. There's been a few guys that have like really, you know, believed in them, Eberhardts and you know, guys that have just from forever. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, there's some advantages that I can identify. The main one being like bulk. You know, it's like I can condense this thing to a pack, and I can just basically walk with my bow into the deal and do it. But I gave that the best effort that I could. I really did. And my thought process was both. Mm-hmm. I was like, I want to have
versatility.
Why not also be able to do that? And for probably a year, a year and a half, I always trended towards the hang on because that's what I was comfortable with. But I probably tried to hunt with that saddle for, I mean, what do you think, Jeremy? 10 times maybe?
Yeah. I probably used it less than you, but I bet
10 times. Which may, in fairness, maybe is not enough to like make a decision there, but I couldn't, like, you can't do both. It seems like I got so proficient with a hang on.
Mm-hmm. I think with these new setups, like I tried a trophy line saddle for a year, a handful of times. And I was just like, this is just as much work as hanging mine.
It is.
And I run the 0.5 from Lone Wolf Custom Gear, and that's what Finn runs too. And
it's freaking
that's
nuts.
the hybrid there, but
yeah, even the hybrids. I mean, I can put that in any tree, any place, does not matter. And I would much rather flip the seat up and have a climbing harness on. And if I feel like leaning, I can use a climbing harness. But most of the time, I'm just there. And now, like, I don't hunt very high, so that's kind of like another reason why I'm like, hey, this is gonna be really cool. I can hunt low, take a compound, reach out a little farther, and not hug these. I would hug with a trad bow. I'd hug, you know, my style was really get in tight. I can back off now.
Yep.
And hunt lower and be more safe and just take a longer shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think for me, it's that, you know, from day one of me being in a tree stand at 9 years old with my dad, like I've always felt more comfortable up against the tree, you know, on my back, like that breaking up my outline and being able to kind of, you know, move versus like facing
hiding behind the tree
and like being out.
Everything is
going over the bridge with your bow and all that movement to swing. I don't see the appeal at me personally.
Sure.
I've tried it, but I just don't see the appeal. I've tried it and I've had deer coming in. I'm like, oh, that'll be simple if deer come in. And then when that time came, I was like froze.
Yeah.
And again, maybe it wasn't, I haven't spent enough time in it. I gave it a fair shake though. And I was just like, nah, like if I was in just a lock on, it'd be dead.
Dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's one of the big arguments is they're like, well, we can, I can pivot to hide behind the tree. And
I think it's the bulk argument. I mean, they have to justify some benefit when they're at the tree and hunting out of the tree. But I think most of it's public land, guys, and most of it's like it's a bulk thing.
That is, it's like a diaper though. You're constantly like, you can't change your clothes. Like,
no,
you got to take it off, change your clothes. So once you're up there and in it, like, it's hard to add layers. It doesn't make sense.
Which in a harness does that too. I felt like that was a real benefit, like the bulk. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's one true benefit that I can see.
Not with packing this kind of stuff now. I mean, that's Titan, right? I mean, yeah.
No, still. I mean, it's a saddle fits in your bag. There's like literally nothing.
Yeah, but you still have sticks.
And you can't wear pants over top of it.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating for saddles. I'm just saying that's the one benefit. But to the guys pivoting around the trees and stuff, I'm like, and I'm not there with them so maybe that is happening. But I'm like, are you really pivoting around the tree when there's big?
There's no way.
I just don't see it
ain't
happening.
No.
Most guys I see like leaning way out away. They look like a freaking.
I hate that. That is out of anything. That is the number one thing that I just feel like I'm out like a sore thumb. Where again, if I'm tight to that tree and he's coming, I feel like there's no way he sees me.
The only benefit, like the reason why I wear a climbing harness and to like have a rope man one and it's kind of a saddle setup, but I don't use it like that. The only reason I do is if I have that opportunity and I can't get a shot and that buck's in a position, I could put my weight onto that climbing harness and lean out to take a shot.
Out.
Yeah.
But other than that, I never put any weight on it. No, I've never done it.
Oh, I lean off it all the time.
Yeah.
I use my harness like a lot.
Oh yeah, I lean like to take a shot on a deer. I've never had to do that.
Yeah,
but I could if that like because there's that little.
I've done it with my lineman's belt. Like I always have my lineman's belt when I'm hanging, but as long as it's not huge at the top, I've loosened that up to where I've just kind of leaned myself just as like a different kind of middle of the day try to stretch basically type of thing.
Mine is one and the same. So my lineman's belt is a rope, like most of them are, I guess, and it's got a cinch on it, and I have a long one, so I don't know what it is, but it's probably like 6 feet, 6 foot maybe. So I use it as a lineman's belt when need be, especially for hanging. Truthfully, I don't need it until I'm like hanging the stand. That's the real one. But sometimes, like if it's a sketchy tree, I'll use it when I need it. And then when I get to the top, remember we always used to have those buckles, and they would always make a noise, and you'd have to fold them out. Yeah, I use my lineman's belt. So I just disconnect it. I put it around the tree, rope it through itself, and then I cinch to my thing. Yep. And I have adjustability with that, and that's what I use.
Yep, that's what I use.
I will say the saddles or a climbing harness, whatever you want to choose. If you're taking a junior hunter or a hunter, like, and you're filming somebody or watching your kid, they're perfect.
Yeah.
Because I want to face him.
Yeah.
I don't want to have my back to the tree and looking over my shoulder at him all the time. I can stay here and focus on him and see everything he's doing. So I use it a lot when he's with me.
That makes sense.
To the harness, that connection conversation, it's probably not safe, maybe not the right way to do it, but I've seen so many people. How to set this up. Like if I'm sitting in my tree stand here and the deer's coming in over here, they stand up and turn. So you're now facing the tree, be a right-handed shooter, and they just draw their bow. And then the strap is like sitting here above and it's between their ear. I never understood how people like cannot figure out like, dude, like bring your arm over and connect it and come to full draw. And then it's just sitting clean over your shoulder.
I think it's the thought process.
How many people have you seen do that? Like
as they're moving and stuff, it's not registering because it's not there when they're just hanging. It only gets there when they get to a different angle. And I think
they think it's in the way when they do that, but it wouldn't be.
It's just one of the
It's in the way when you draw like that. It's caused me some problems. It's the same way
like if you have your harness too loose or whatever and you like have to make a tight turn around the tree and you're like, oh, do I go over? Do I go under? Do I go over? Do I go under?
I'm horrible. Like, and that's partially why I started hunting low because I'm bad. Like, I don't use a lineman's rope climbing. Like I just climb, hang.
Check this out. This may change your mind. We were too. My uncle never hunted with a harness. Like nobody did. Back in the day, dude, nobody hunted with harnesses. So I didn't hunt with a harness till I was like, I don't know, 16 or something like that. couple of years ago, my uncle, who never hunted with a harness, just, he's like, I'm a squirrel, right? Like we all feel.
Till we get older.
Yeah. Couple of years ago, maybe
5?
No, more, probably now, 6-8 years ago. 5-6 years ago. Yeah, you might be right. He fell out at last light. And the what sucked about that was I think he had a harness on for the hunt. And I think he took it off to get down.
Yep. And
it was last light. And he just lost his footing and somehow stepped off the and just fell in the dark. And so didn't know to brace himself. And he'd have been 55 at that point, maybe like late 50s. Shattered both tib fib and both legs and his ankles. I mean, he's got fusions and
Dude,
4-year recovery.
I've definitely gotten safer as my kids got older. Like, like I can't be screwed around. But I still I'll climb not attached and come down not attached a lot.
We have lifelines in almost every tree now.
I did it all week in Illinois though.
The problem with the lifelines is
okay,
so my problem is we hunt mobile all the time.
Yep.
In order to get a lifeline up there,
you can't do that.
I got to free climb it anyways. He never goes up or down without a lifeline.
So you're the one going
But I'm the one up there
down.
hanging and climbing and doing this.
Plus you get a lineman's belt for that. I mean, that's your next best.
Yeah.
Dude, that's
and
a
you use
game
it when you need
changer.
it.
That lineman's
There's a risk.
belt.
No matter what, there's a risk.
There's a risk. You're right. And I've used more precautions as I've gotten older, but I hunt
that
too
lineman's
much
belt has been a game changer.
Huge.
For just being able to, because I remember no harness, hugging tree.
Oh yeah. Well, that's why we're also good at hanging hang-ons. It's because of you with your tongue, you're like
he yells at me all the time. He's like, "Dad, you need to get attached." I'm like, "I'm good for a little bit."
I got it.
My buddy Corey is always, "Are you connected? Are you connected?" He's like big on it.
I'm never connected.
And truthfully, I don't even use I as a secondary, I do use a lineman's belt for safety. It's more for I was like, when I first started using one to hang the stand, I was like, I've been missing out on this. I got two hands. 2 hands.
That's the thing.
Yeah, I was like, this is amazing.
I'll take just a carabiner hook and I'll hang my step and I'll just click my carabiner on it for the time being.
Yeah, that'll work
until I get moving, just so I'm not messing with that stupid rope.
Strap,
I get to the point I'm like, I'd rather just hunt off the ground if I got to do this all the time, So that's why I'm literally, our sets are 10 feet or less a lot. We don't hunt very high anymore. It's funny because my dad, he'd oh, you don't need to get that high. What are you doing? Just get in between two crooks of a tree and you'll be fine. And I'm like, whatever, Dad. How many deer have you killed? But now I'm doing that a lot.
Doing it all.
Yeah. So it's.
You can't blame the old guys for you remember the original harness you would get in a tree stand pack. It took you, you needed an engineering degree just to put that thing on. It was just 17 straps all over the place, and you're just tying it onto yourself. I
think when they came out with one strap that clearly designated the arms versus the legs, that was the greatest innovation. They're wow.
I can put my leg through this. Okay.
Each one had individual slides
So, but no, it's
you can still get those if you want. Yeah.
They come with
everyone. Come with the stand.
They have to from the tree stand safety. Yeah. But it's I do think it's a big, but going back on that trad side of things, it's all of those things, all of those movements, I think end up coming into play a lot more when you're in that stand, to the point of what we talk about, how long do you hold? When do you take that, chance of drawing? And, if you're on top of them, obviously they're going to see you, what's the reaction going to be? So
the HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Lone Wolf Custom Gear.
Man, Jared, we are tree stand fanatics, and I think the one thing that we have learned over all these years is to kill big bucks, we got to be mobile. We've been hunting out of Lone Wolves for many years, the original Lone Wolf, and then obviously with the custom gear stuff, we're using the 0.5 and the 0.75. Yeah. And the one thing that we talked about is what if there were no cables? Here we are.
I really just don't know how you can beat it, frankly. But, a lot of that came, too, from a relationship that we've built with the DeQuistos. We've had both Cody and Andre on the podcast a few times. The passion for hunting, the outlook on the sport and stuff, I think is eye to eye with how we look at it. Everything that has gone into building this brand and to building these tree stands is something that we want to be a part of.
This is the 40th anniversary of these guys creating tree stands that have been critical to how we hunt whitetail deer today. If you look over the past, you'll see Andre's designs being implemented across so many stands over the years. Such a cool thing, but really has changed the way that we all hunt whitetail deer from above now.
Right now, you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, to get 7% off anything on the entire website. Be the lone wolf. Why are you hunting so low? Is that a safety preference, or that's just you think that's your best shot?
I just don't see the benefit of getting high anymore, other than wind and scent control. But I feel like if you have the right setup, you don't need
What about vision? I mean, I feel like I'm not a super high guy either, but you know, the higher you go, the more you're going to see until you hit canopy, basically.
Yeah, I mean, where I'm hunting now, like my property's pretty thick, so the cover's low, so I get to the cover.
Yeah,
I don't go any higher than I have to. So if there's cover low and I think I can pull it off, that's all the higher I
That's
go.
the right answer. That's the move. Is it's more important to find
Align the
cover
Yeah.
than to get high or low.
Probably the higher you would go with that low line cover, the less shots you're going to have.
And especially the recurve, the more the steeper the angle, the harder
Well,
the
that's
shot.
what
Same
the
with
other thing I
compound,
was going to
but,
say. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the more flat.
And I like
line
being
shots.
close. Like I do.
Yeah.
That was part of being, having the trad bow is getting up close and personal and shooting them as close as you can. The compound for me now just magnifies thing. Like it's fun. Like before we'd go hunting groundhogs in the pasture fields with our trad bows and I'd miss 90% of them at 30, 35 yards. And I'd hit a few here and there. Last night I smoked one with the compound like it was nothing. I'm like, this is fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
So some people say like, I used to be this way too. Like I don't have to kill something, but I'd like to. Until you put the right weapon in your hand, now you're like, yeah, I want to kill something.
I think that's where I'm kind of like back and forth of like, if I can see myself, if I kill a good buck early, that I'd trad the rest of the year, just because it's like I did what I needed to do. I feel good, like it's in there. But from a time and practice and confidence standpoint, it doesn't work that way.
No, that's why I keep jumping back and forth. Like it's all what you want at that time.
Yep.
And like my buddy is a diehard trad guy, and he'll never pick up a compound. If he does, I'll be shocked.
Yeah.
And because he's content.
He's just content with it.
And I was for a long time, and now
Like
it's
you
just
said,
like,
though, priorities change.
Priorities change, man.
People change over time. Yeah, you're just like, man, I just want to, like, he may have a streak where he's like, has a lot like you did.
Yeah.
And at the end be like, dude, I just want to kill something.
Yeah, or I'll go out west, and my wife's like, you just spent a whole week out there, and you didn't even bring any meat home? I'm like,
yeah.
good point. Probably should have taken a compound,
Yeah.
just little comments like that. Or my daughter's like, Dad, you're hunting every single day. Like, I want you to spend time with me. Like, I could have killed that buck last night if I'd have had a compound, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing's for sure, but it's definitely harder with a trad bow.
So have you killed a buck with your compound recently?
Yeah, last year.
Last year.
Yeah.
What was the feeling?
It was.
Yeah. That's a great question.
So, long story. This buck Finn was watching pretty much all year. He was
killed Finn's buck.
I killed Finn's buck.
Son of a gun, man.
What a compound, no less. He was gonna kill it with a recurve.
So, and he wasn't in. I kind of felt
I
bad
thought you were a
afterwards,
great
but I
dad
did.
this whole time.
Yeah.
He's been waiting for you to say that the whole time. He's like, hey, come in here.
All right, put the headphones on, Finn.
So this deer was one of the better deer we had on the property, and Finn was hunting a different buck, but he did want to kill this buck. But this one time he was at hockey, and I got home at 5:30 from work. I was like, I should go climb in that stand. And I know the property well enough now. Like, I don't run too many cameras, and these buck they like to come off it's a big hillside. And I have a nice staging food plot, and then it's big ag after that. So they have to cross the township road to go to the big ag, but the food plot is a nice staging area for the deer. And as soon as those thermals change, the buck like to come out, obviously.
Drop right down in
so
there.
as soon as the thermals change, if you get in too early, you can screw it up. But if you get in at the right time, it's perfect. I was like, I could probably make it. So I literally had my khaki pants on from work, threw on my boots, threw on just like a merino wool solid color hoodie that was laying there, and grabbed my bow and took off. Climbed up in the stand, and I no sooner hit the stand and felt the thermals change. I was like, this could be good. And here comes a bunch of does, and they kept looking. I was like, he's coming. And he read the script. It's like 35 yards, making a scrape right across the food plot. I drew back and shot him, and I wasn't in the stand 15 minutes or something like that. So it was pretty quick and easy, but it was refreshing because I worked so hard for so many years hunting nonstop to kill something. And you have those easy hunts from time to time, but it was just refreshing. Like, there was no question I wasn't going to, like, when I saw him, I was like, he's dead.
Yeah, I'm killing him.
And with a trad bow, it's not like that. So you go years of like, there he is, like, all right, don't screw this up. Don't screw this. like that weighs on you after a while. Like you get burnout from that feeling of it being so hard. At least I did. Like it's nice to just go enjoy
to
it.
win one every once in a while.
Well, and you know, I don't know, maybe say you pigeonholed yourself a little bit. Like obviously when you're building a brand, Trad Geeks, you're in it.
You're in it.
You're right. Like
100%.
Even if it was like,
you're not a compound geek.
even if it's like,
You're a
well,
trad geek.
you know what? Maybe just for this hunt, I'll be a No, you're a trad guy.
Yeah, that's it. And I, once I started slowing down with Trad Geeks, I still hunted with a trad bow for a while, but I know I was like, you know what? I don't have to do this
You don't
anymore.
have to.
Like if this isn't making me happy anymore, like I really don't care.
That to me, I think is the key.
So yeah,
because if you're not like, I mean, we all do it because it's that feeling that we get just being out there and people, when it becomes laborious and like maybe some of the love and excitement of it begins to like fade to whether it's stress or pressure or anxiety, whatever, a change has to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, without a doubt. And man, I felt a sense of like, okay, this isn't as hard as I thought it was, because I put in hours to kill deer with the trad bow, and was pretty successful. I think I did it 11 or 12 years. I probably killed 8 out of 11 years in PA. So I mean, but it was a lot of work. It was a lot of time.
Right.
And at that time, I owned my own practice, so I'd hunt every morning and every evening, and now I don't have that luxury. But
yeah. I mean, I think it's it's one of those things that I've killed a doe with a recurve a long time ago. I haven't killed anything with a trad bow, which is, I think, why the mystique of like, it'd be cool, right? It'd be cool to put one, like maybe and I don't know, because like I still like, if I kill a 5-year-old buck with my compound, I'm shaking. Everything about me is, I'm just wondering, like, is there a feeling that I haven't, that I'm
initially, I'll say initially, yes.
Yeah.
That goes away.
Then it goes away.
Yeah, I've killed a lot with a recurve, done it. I didn't feel any different doing it with a compound than I did a trad bow. Me personally. Now my buddy Aaron shot one with a compound last year or the year before, hasn't for a while, and he's like, I'm not shooting another doe with a compound ever again. Like, I was like, okay.
Well, there's the answer to your question. You were asking what's the feeling, and like we've talked here recently, I had a similar experience where this past year I shot my first buck with a gun, which it still sounds crazy to say because I've just hunted for a long time, but I just quickly evolved to archery. That's just what we did because my uncle was bow hunter. That's what we did, and I've shot plenty of bucks. Last year I shot his oldest buck I've ever shot too. Came back 6.5 years old. Shot this buck with my dad in the stand, which was super cool. Second buck I killed off our Illinois farm, which was also super cool. It was kind of a wild morning, like, you know how gun season is.
Opening day gun season.
And it's like, it was prime. Bucks running everywhere, gunshots going off everywhere. It was wild. And I shot this thing, and a noticeable feeling of like, because for whatever reason, I was like, not that I shot it to compare them, but I was like, that was different.
Yeah.
In fact, I didn't even go recover it first. I went and confronted a neighbor that was on our property line first. I would never do that with a bow. Like, I mean, maybe in that circumstance, but I was just like, and it was, don't get me wrong, it was really cool. And it was a buck that we knew, and it was like, all of us were there. So all of that was super cool. I don't mean to take away from it, but it definitely was not like, if I can gauge my excitement to when I killed a smaller deer early in the season with my bow, and I called Jeremy, I was like, that's as hype as you get. I'm like, it just freaking happened. I just did it, dude.
Yeah.
It's kind of like turkey hunting where you want them coming in, gobbling their head off to have that perfect hunt. I feel like it's the same with what equipment you're with. It could have changed if one of your best friends was with you or your dad. Like one of my most memorable hunts was with a trad bow with my dad that I got into traditional archery and archery hunting, and he ended up being real successful after not hunting with he never did archery hunt. He was with the stand with me, and I smoked this little buck, nothing to brag about. Heart shot him. We watched him die in front of us. Like, it was a little buck, but I could care less about that.
Yeah, it was just the situation.
It was the experience, and the same with him. And I've went on a lot of hunts myself, and I hunt for myself, obviously, but either I had to rush to work, like I'd kill a buck and I'd have to rush to work, and I'd be rushing, and like, you don't get to enjoy the experience for what it's really worth. So like that buck last year, I was amped up. Was I as amped up as I should have been? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was more amped up because I knew my buddy Derek was home and we got to go recover it together with the dogs and enjoy the process that I was lacking for so many years because I'd killed it during the week and everybody was working.
Everybody was working.
Like,
yeah.
For me, it's that experience and maximizing that experience with everybody if you can.
Those are, you can't replace those. I mean, I think the more of those you can rack up, the better. It really is it's the recovery aspect and who can be with you and who's been a part of it up until that point, you know.
That's the most unique part because, like, you know, hunting as itself is like, it's you and the animal, right? But the moment that harvest happens, then it's like, who you're going to share it with.
It immediately turns into who you're going to share it with.
Because if it's just you, I'm not, you know, it's still important, but it's like, now what?
It's a really interesting dynamic of hunting because you're right. It's such an individual, almost like selfish. It's like you would benefit by withholding information, by, you know, by doing, like you would, by being selfish about it. But then as soon as you are successful at it, it's you want the opposite. You want as many people involved as possible.
That's it.
Yeah, I can't. I share every picture I have with friends, family, neighbors. Like, I know I hurt myself a lot with that stuff, but I don't care. Like, I like that process. And like you said, who's with you and who, like that, and that matters too. Like, nothing against my wife. I love her to death, but I could kill a buck. She could be like, good job, honey. Would mean nothing to me because she doesn't care about it.
She doesn't care.
Oh, mine either.
You know?
I call Jeremy first.
Or like,
she knows.
Here, I don't call
she knows.
Lindsay first ever. I call Finn or my dad or, you know, because
who's going to care? Who's going to be the happiest for you?
And my buddy Derek, like, you know, he's just as pumped as I am, if not more for him.
Oh, yeah.
So, like,
that's what
this buck right here. Jeremy killed on the mountain a couple years.
17?
Several years ago now.
Yeah, 7 years.
And I was just working for him. So I was just like his employee at that point, but we were like becoming friends. And I was like, he called me and was like, dude, I just shot this freaking giant, I'm pretty sure. And I was like, don't you dare go recover him without me. I was like, I was like an hour away. I drove out there and we went and recovered. I was like,
just sat in the stand in the dark and waited.
Yeah. That was pretty cool.
But yeah, I mean, I could have went and found it. It would have been awesome. But it was like, I remember walking up and we're like, dude, there's blood everywhere. He's going to be, and like, there it is. I'm like, oh my God, you know, as big as Pennsylvania buck I might ever kill, you know, and
that's awesome.
That's just how it is. But yeah, or that one, you know, we freaking tracked that thing 2 miles the day after I hit it because I single lunged it. And I mean, you know, through everything, like, you know, following him down a creek where he's dripping on leaves literally in the middle of like a brookie stream and stuff. I mean, it's the most intense tracking job ever. But like, we found, like, he was still alive, but we ended up getting him. And it was like, I mean, dude, that picture and that memory will trump like any other deer I've killed.
It's probably the coolest part, honestly. Like, it maybe doesn't get enough credit, the recovery of it, but like, I mean, now that you're running through them, think about like my 8-point that I killed in Kansas that we recovered together just to drive out there. I was just thinking this morning as we were talking about North Dakota, I shot a buck in North Dakota on public land last year, whitetail. I hunted with Lucas Psycho. You know who that is?
Yeah, I know Lucas Shaw.
So I shot a giant. Like for out there, it was like a 160-inch mainframe 7x6.
He's a killer too.
He's Lucas. A killer.
Oh my God.
Last 10 minutes of like a 6-day hunt, 5 to 6 day hunt, whatever it was. And we had seen the buck a few days prior in full velvet, and I was shaking like a leaf. And like Lucas, he's just sitting over there filming me, like if you know how he is. And I'm just like just from travel and cold, and like I didn't have my hoodie. It's like 5 miles down the river. We're going and you can hear him coming, like his hoofs coming through the mud sound like. It was like the weirdest thing, and so. That was a few days prior, and to kill that thing, I didn't know it was that buck when I shot him. I knew it was a good frame deer, and I thought he was mature, so I shot him, and it was over. And I left, and I even told Lucas. I called you too. You might have been asleep because we're an hour or two behind her. And it was like 9 o'clock there. It was probably 11 o'clock here. And I called Lucas and was like, dude, I don't know. It's like it's a good deer. I don't know who it is or whatever. But all of that, and his dad came out and met us, and his dad, Mitch, is just like classic North Dakota. Like,
I used to love watching his stuff on WKP.
We went and recovered that deer together, dude, and we've never freaked out, like probably like we did there. That was one of my greatest deer hunting memories, I think. Yeah, dude, all of them. Our North Dakota muleys when we did that too.
Yeah,
they're all different, but they're all like just as good.
Yeah, and I mean, you relate those to like some of the deer that you have killed, and then maybe you end up having to find it yourself. You still call people, but it's still you.
It's different,
and it's just like it's a cool moment with you and that deer at the end of the day, but yeah, it's different.
Yeah,
it's a different experience. Yeah, and I think that everybody kind of evolves into that. I remember like I loaned it for a long time where, man, I would go out and smack up, a pile of does over a 2 or 3 day period. And it was just like, it was just like out there doing it myself and fine. But then eventually it was like, I would yearn for like a Pennsylvania deer camp, which was a whole different, like the whole point of that was completely different than what I was doing in archery season.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the style. That's why like when you get into like, and I don't know if it's as familiar anymore, probably because of crossbows and stuff, but when you had like the guys who just gun hunted and then the guys who bow hunted and then had, gun season and in specific, like Pennsylvania, archery season guys were like, I mean, they were hunting, they were hard at it. They had October and November to get into it. And then you get the deer season and it's like, those guys were like on, maybe even rut worn a little bit at that point. And all the gun guys are kind of like, they're ready to go. Like, this is it. Like, it's the opening day. And it's like, man, you'd been after it for 2 months essentially as an archery guy, and you're ramped up for deer season, but gun season almost was like the letdown point because it's like my season.
That's the worst time of the year.
My season that I was just after is over now. You guys are about to start, but that officially ends the thing I look forward to.
Yeah.
Late season bow in Pennsylvania is not fun to go after.
Dude, I love that. Just the fact, like, I don't know what you call it. Like it's like a secondary life for a short period of time that deer season offers. Like it's just like it really is a journey. It's a year-long thing, but when it starts, it's like, and obviously things change as you have kids and like priorities change, but still it's like it's the season. There's only so many, and it's such a fine amount of time. It's like, are we going to push it? Are we going to go?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just invited Jeremy to North Dakota this morning. I was like, and he's like, dude, and so we'll see between now. But those are the things you're like, how many seasons do you get? How,
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of that, like I loved being in private practice and having the flexibility to hunt, but it was like an hour here, an hour there.
Yep.
Like I said, I'd kill something, wouldn't have anybody to share with. Now I get 5 weeks paid vacation. So now I can just
that's better.
Load it up.
Just
and
blitz.
When I tell my wife, like, I'm going, I'm gone.
Yeah.
And I can actually.
5 weeks is a long time.
Yeah.
If you can have a contiguous 5 week season, that'll work.
That'll work. So I won't do that. I'll probably just do a week here, week there. But
fine.
At least when I start, I can focus versus.
That's even better than 5 weeks contiguous.
Yeah.
I think
because there's a lot of bad weather days.
Whether it's guys will blame it on media and YouTube and whatever, but like I think the kind of opening of the gates to being able to go to other states and hunt has been the biggest changer for me.
Mm-hmm.
And like there were 2 or 3 years that I killed my buck on the opening week of Pennsylvania bow season, and then the rest of the year was like, or the rest of the season, I didn't know what to do. I mean, in fact, I probably worked harder for other people trying to get them on deer or
that's what you do.
Whatever, like that, because I was living vicariously through them. Right now, with having Ohio or Kentucky or whatever, it's like I feel like the options are endless. Now I do feel stretched at the same time, like it's a devil's advocate essentially, but I feel like at least with the options, it's like my season doesn't end until I say it's over. Like, I mean,
it'd be really hard to fill every tag. Like and we do that on purpose.
Yeah, because we don't want it to end.
You don't want it to end.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of excited now because I commute a lot for work and I'm like right on the Ohio border. So I'm going to camp up there a lot and hunt.
The leap is necessary for sure.
Yeah. So that adds to it as well. And
we hunt Ohio a lot. That's my family farm's over there. Jeremy's got a farm there too.
Opens up a week earlier. Yeah. All the Sundays to hunt. Yeah. Goes until February. Yeah. A lot of advantages.
I've hunted Ohio a few times, but like nothing serious.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to doing that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of advantages to having those. Yeah. And it's not, the barrier to entry is not as high as we all probably once thought it was. I mean, I remember when I was growing up hunting, and somebody would be like, "Oh, these guys hunt Ohio." I'm like, "Damn, like how do I do that?" You know, it was an hour away.
Yeah.
But I had no idea. Like, didn't even make sense to me.
Yeah, that's what I was telling Finn a few weeks ago. My buddy, like growing up, I just knew Pennsylvania. Like I didn't know I could go do all this stuff. I was like, you're so far ahead of the curve. Like now like you're learning all this stuff to experience it.
Yeah,
and that's great. Like I don't think I went out west till I was in my 20s. So
do you guys go to the Midwest at all to deer hunt?
We're going this year. We're going to head to Wisconsin the last week of October.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, first time. I have a friend or family relative that lives out there, so she owns a little parcel, but it's in a good area.
Yeah.
So we're going to...
It's the time to do it. And
just going to put our feet on the ground, see what we turn up.
Have you ever been to the Midwest, Finn? How old is he?
12.
Dude.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
It'll make you spoiled, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's just different, man. They're just out there.
Yeah. It's just built different.
We were talking the other day when we were in Illinois. Jeremy and I bought a farm in Illinois last year.
Nice.
And we were out there the other day doing some work, and we're like, dude, some people, our people, like here from Pennsylvania, like a lot of people from the Northeast, like, you know, places just that aren't Illinois, like they'll never know. They'll never get to see. They're just there. It's just, you know, everything that you see on TV or that you hear about, like even that we talk about on this podcast, in some ways is probably like tough to relate to. Boy, I don't know. Like I have a really hard time. Like, you know, there's one, probably a 3-year-old deer that I'm like trying to kill. And it's just like, it's a different world out there. You've been a few times?
Not for whitetail, other in South Dakota.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you kill one in South Dakota? Which part? Mule deer.
Custer. So like the
Northwest.
Black Hills.
Yep. Yeah, we've been there.
Harding County a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
During the drought.
We've been to Custer 2 or 3 times.
I shot at a whitetail out there, actually.
Yeah,
they were all mixed in
I
there.
missed the muley out
Missed
there.
one, 70 yards.
I can't remember the mountain ridge. It was walk-in only.
Yeah.
I think it was called Elk Mountain.
There's some good stuff out there.
So we
tough
packed
ground.
in and slept out there for a few nights. And
It's a cool area. Yeah, I mean, we talk about all the time, like, you know, my dad, all he knew was Pennsylvania. We took him, he was probably
mine too.
56, 57 the first time my dad was out there.
That's been fun.
And I mean, I remember him texting me and he's like, dude, I don't know what is going on. Yeah, it's Kansas. He saw 8 different bucks chasing a single doe, and he said the doe would go down into a ditch and it'd come back out and there'd be a bigger buck following it every time.
Yeah.
Every time. A different buck, bigger buck, every time. He's like,
I
never seen anything.
That yet,
but that is that's the Midwest. I was like, that's what I told him. I was like, this is Kansas. That's what you see.
You know Ben Harshine?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Benny and I, go quite a ways back, and that's why I'd text him. I'm like, dude, stop posting this crap on Instagram.
The Iowa
He's like,
stuff. Yeah.
Dude, it's not PA, it's Iowa.
It's Iowa.
Like,
yeah.
Well, dude, a lot of people don't understand. Like, even Jeremy and I probably were like, oh, let's film a show. Like, there's a reason that all 95, 90, 100% of those shows are filmed in Iowa is because, and it's not a dig at the Iowa guys or anything. It's just like, they're just there. And like, it's pretty, you're going to see mature bucks fairly frequently. Like if you have any idea what you're doing, and you can have the same or better ability or knowledge, woodsmanship here, and you're not going to have those encounters. They're just not here the way that they're out there.
But that is the thing here, and you know, people from the Midwest get pissy about it. But like, if you hone your skills in these areas, and then you go to Kansas, Illinois, Iowa, and hunt, you're deadly.
Oh, yeah, Cody even says that.
You're
like,
deadly.
Dude, Pennsylvania's a different animal.
You want to hear something funny about Cody? He's coming in tonight, right?
No.
Yeah.
He'll be here. I don't know what time he's getting in.
He's gonna be on the podcast tomorrow morning.
I didn't tell you that?
No. I'm going to see Cody tomorrow.
At the show.
We're going out to Benton,
Yeah.
so.
Well, if he gets here in time, we can do dinner.
Heck yeah.
Whatever.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I was talking to Jacob the other day, and we were just got into the thing about Jacob.
His
last name. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were talking about the Iowa guys and that mentality of just like, dude. Again, no offense, they don't get it. They don't know. They don't understand. They don't know anything different than Iowa. Like, and why would you ever leave? You can kill 3 bucks there as a landowner. It's awesome. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And so we got to talking about like whatever it was, not like level of passion or input throughout the year and stuff. And like Jacob was like, he's like, dude, I'm just gonna tell you, like, Cody's like fishing during the summer and like doing this and that. And think about somebody who's like, who loves deer hunting more than like Cody, right? Yeah. Probably nobody, most people say. But I just think that the requirement in Iowa is much less.
It's low.
It's like, and that's probably the right thing to do, is because like if you're in there, you're just gonna mess it up. Like just leave them be, and the deer will be there. Whereas here, and I'm kind of grateful for this as, you know, non-Midwesterners, is like we have to like it really, the habitat improvement stuff that we do here really might be the only reason that they get through or can get to a certain point.
Yeah, and just finding them. You
I was gonna say,
and finding them.
And Cody, like he'll even tell you, like he's so aggressive that there's no sense even scouting right now.
Well, and he's not running cameras or anything.
No, they're not in the same area. They're not like
exactly.
He's hot on sign, and I mean that's kind of how I hunt as well. Even in PA, like I'm a huge scrape hunter. Last 10 days of October, like give it to me.
So I told Jacob, I said, tell Cody to quit being such a wuss. He said, you just get after it. I said, is he killing 3 every year? And Jacob said, well, no. I said, well,
yeah. Yeah, but I mean, the thing with Cody is like, if you're in Iowa.
Not to take anything away from Cody.
Yeah, but if you're anyone, if you're in Iowa, you hit a ridge line in mid-October and you find scrapes, you sit on that, good chance there's a big buck coming through. You do that in Pennsylvania, could be a bunch of 1-year-olds.
That's exactly. They just do what they're supposed to do. You're like, if I set up here, I'm going to see a big buck. And then you do. Yeah. But if you do it here, you never do.
Yeah, it's like, a 2-year-old 8-point comes through and it's like, I'll wait. No, that was the king of this forest.
Yeah, he's the man right there.
Yeah, last year on our farm, there was probably mid 150s, 160s deer.
Nice.
That's a monster, though.
And he got killed last year, but that was the first one in years.
Yeah, that's a monster for PA.
We have them around. I mean,
sure.
In some of the, whatever you call them, suburban areas. I mean, we get some big deer here. I've got a listing right now with a 170 on it.
Yeah, I mean, that deer
like
was
in Pittsburgh.
62.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's.
And then 3 years later, I was hunting a 70 plus on the same farm. Yeah. That's right up here on the mountain.
I'll give a lot of credit to the guys that are doing it up north and stuff, though.
Yeah.
Dude, there's a lot of guys from Pennsylvania.
Yeah. And
Michigan's the other one, and Minnesota. Like, dude, these northeastern states, you see it's not like coincidence that it breeds like just diehards.
Yeah, they just go.
Because we're limited. Like, we're thirsty. Like, our roots have to be deep, right, to get to.
Or you see the guys from the south migrate up to southern Ohio, southern Illinois.
From the south, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
yeah, that, like, Punxsutawney, DuBois area, there's a lot of old school big time bow hunters that came from that area. Lots of them.
Yeah.
I mean, even now, like,
I mean, the Wenzels were PA boys.
And the Wenzels from DuBois.
Yep, DuBois.
Funny, they were chiropractors too. That's kind of cool.
It is.
Yeah.
But Cody Galvis, is it Galvis? Yeah, I think it was Cody. He just killed, like, I don't know if it's the record.
That's the guy who killed it in Tioga?
Yeah, with the trad bow.
With the trad bow.
Is that early season buck I saw last year?
Monster.
And that guy lives in the woods.
Yeah.
Part of his career, I think, but
you kind of have to get on those deer up there.
And his uncle was a big turkey hunter, pretty famous in turkey hunting and stuff like that. Like that family in general in that area is big time. Like, they're all diehards. Gage Galvis, he's got into trad and made a little name for himself in the trad community. Kills bear every year up there, and just a young kid just killing it. Like, it's a cool area. Big bow hunters come from that area.
I mean, from there, and I mean, I think there's less hunters in there, but I mean, A&F is producing some giant deer. I mean, not everybody's killing them, but they're in there for sure, giants. But it's like, you also have A&F.
That's what I was kind of saying, is I give those guys a lot of credit. Those deer are way harder to kill than Midwestern deer. They just are.
Oh, absolutely.
And I can say that because we hunt Midwestern deer. Like, those Pennsylvania deer are freaking harder to kill.
They just
cover
and they
so
cover
much ground. They're just not as content.
Well, we were just talking about it. So I've got a place, and my wife's from Kentucky. We have a farm down there, and we're on the eastern side. So it's mountains. So it looks like, northern PA. And I was in there hanging cameras and stuff. I've got bucks that are like long lining essentially a mile to my food source right now. Whereas like in the Midwest, they're moving 150 yards, like up, over, down. Like, these deer are moving a mile in and out every night just to come and hit a bean field from big woods, basically. And it's like, what do they do when they actually start to move? Like, how much ground are they actually covering?
Well, and even in Kentucky, I guess I'll throw Kentucky in there. Like, I'm more, because if there's a pattern, great. It doesn't matter how far they're traveling, you can kill them. It's it's the unpatterned ability, like the seemingly random movement that I think big woods seems to like
it does
turn out. I just don't understand.
Well, it's just it goes back to like they don't have a single bedding spot. They're going to bed in 14 different spots depending on where they're ending up at what time of the day, you know, or what has happened through there.
It's a different animal, and there's guys that just
they kill it.
Like Nathan Killen. Do you guys know Nathan?
I know Nathan.
Nathan is just, him and I are really good friends, and he's a different animal. And I've scouted with him, and the way he looks at property in mountains compared to me, like, it's just different.
Just different.
And until you learn to look at it that way, you're lost.
Like we have Johnny Stewart on all the time. Johnny's
the same way.
He's part deer. Did live part mountain deer for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when he's in there, he's just reading it different and he's looking at it different, you know, and he'll get on them and he'll find them.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. It's funny how many times you can look. I mean, I can even say on my own farm, like how my lens has changed over the 7-8 years that we've been there. Or I mean, we've had since I was a kid, but it was at least up until I was 8 years ago. And the way I look at it now is completely different. Even, dude, I feel like, and every year I learn more, like, which seems like there would be less and less to figure out, but I feel like every year I learn more. The way I look at farms now is, I would say, pretty drastically different. Case in point, dude, look at the first food plots and, you know, ways to hunt our Illinois farm that we drew up. And the Midwest is arguably pretty easy to hunt compared to some other stuff we're talking about. It's completely different now
compared to last year.
Yeah. I mean, some of the ideas are right.
We killed mature bucks in 6 sits last year, and we're pretty much just this is how we're gonna hunt it.
Yeah, and it's just evolved. We just understand it. I mean, some of it was right, and some of it was successful, and a lot of it was wrong.
A lot of it is just big bucks do what we think big bucks should do. In the Midwest.
And some of that is just time on property too. I mean, it really does take a few years to figure some of that stuff out.
I've seen that with my property. I'm 6 years in on my property, and now it's just, I don't have to put in much effort. Like, I still do a lot of... But you
know the pattern.
I know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I know what they're going to do. And so we've really backed off cameras. We go in and do our thing, and then we're out.
It's nice, isn't it?
It's nice.
It's fun to be able to just run cameras basically for inventory and be like, okay, I'm going to kill that deer there.
Yeah.
You get a couple pictures of a buck on camera, locations that you've had other bucks, and you've learned patterns, and you know it, and they're like, I know what he's going to do come October 30th.
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Pure Wildlife Blends.
Yeah, buddy. We're doing a lot of food plots this year. It seems like the planning, the preparation, like the coordinating for getting everything, in the ground, it's like it just never ends.
Yeah, and I just got off an 18-hour bender where I'm on multiple farms getting everything ready. But this year, fortunately, we've got Pure Wildlife Blends, which is Jeff Sturgis. Who better to partner with for our food plot program than a guy who's got 30 years of experience, been on thousands of farms. I mean, the guy lives and breathes food plots.
Yeah, and so the blends themselves are all handpicked by Jeff, and it's like, man, we've had a lot of conversations with him over the years, and he's been pretty influential in how we set up farms and stuff. And frankly, the product, it's in a name. It's Pure Wildlife Blend. So a lot of these other seeds that you see that are blue and orange or all these things, it's because they're coated with lime and they're dyed, and it's marketing at the end of the day. So we have a lot of confidence in the seeds that Jeff has chose, and that's what we're going to be planting this year. And so right now, you can use code HUNTR10 for 10% off anything on the website.
So if you're looking for switch, clover, brassica, or Jeff's favorite, layer in the rye.
Layer in the rye.
Yep. Check out purewildlifeblends.com.
It's fun. Like mastering a property like that. And it's a generational thing, because like each deer is unique, and that's what keeps us after the mature bucks. But generally, like the bedding areas are the same.
Yep.
And the food sources are the same, and the travel routes are generally,
It's what's super cool is like watching your kids learn that way.
Yeah.
Like, that's been an awesome thing for me, for him. Like, he's grown up on this property with me and has helped me all the way. And then last year, like, he's had a buck do the same thing a couple of times last year, and I'm like, he made it.
Yep.
There's a good chance, bud, he's going to do the same thing.
Yeah,
I was like, where do you think you need to be? He's like, I know exactly where I need to be. So, like, just watching him grow as a hunter on private property that I never had the opportunity to do, it's pretty cool. Like, I was just...
I think one thing that will be interesting is, like, and because you lived through it, is like your dad, you said, was not like a big deer hunter, right? And my dad was like, they deer hunted, but like, not, he's more a fisherman than he was. So in that case, I was leading the charge. I was like, here's what, and I was wrong a lot because I was 15 and I was just watching Bill Winke on YouTube, and that didn't.
You're not Iowa,
and it's not Iowa, and so I was wrong about a lot of things. But I have basically led the charge into how our farm is hunted today. It'll be interesting. Like Cody has lived through this, and Finn will live through this, where your dads are very good deer hunters.
I'm curious as well. I think it's crazy the relationship Cody and his dad have, and how like they don't share anything and they're super competitive with each other. I could see him and I doing that. And I think it'd be super fun.
Yeah.
Because
I don't know if it's fun for them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We're going to sit with both those guys in Iowa at their show.
That'll be cool.
We're going to do the four of us.
That'll be cool.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
I don't know if they've ever done that.
I don't think they have.
No.
It'll be interesting.
It'll be interesting for sure. Super competitive family, obviously. But yeah, I could see us getting into that. He loves to hunt. He doesn't like to hunt like I do. So
who? Finn? Okay.
Yeah. Like he loves to fish. And I like to fish. I love to hunt. He likes to hunt. So
it's funny, dude, what causes that? Like even today, I would say my dad loves to hunt more than he ever has. And he I think has pursued it because I'm so hard up for it, basically. He's like, I want, spend time with me, and he's like, we became passionate about it together. He doesn't love it like I do. There's probably nowhere close. But he also, I would say equally, if not maybe a little bit more, like loves to walleye fish.
Yeah.
Which to me is like the most boring thing in the world. I'm like, you troll and then they don't fight and then, okay, you hit your limit every time. And he loves it. It's like his favorite thing to do. It's just hard to understand. And you mentioned turkey hunting. Like guys are like, to me, I'm like, how can you even compare the two? Like, I'm like, it's not the same thing. But guys like what they like.
Yeah. To each their own. My middle daughter has no interest. My younger daughter, I think she's gonna I've taken her a couple times glassing for deer, and now it's every night. Hey dad, let's go. Hey dad, let's go. I was like, I never expected this from her.
Yeah.
With him, he's always just been there.
Yeah.
And he loves it, or he likes it. He doesn't love it. It's kind of like maybe those aren't the right descriptors, because he does really enjoy it. But if he could pick one or the other, it'd be fishing all day. Every day. So.
I do think that it's something in not your DNA necessarily, but there's something primal that's like, and you can feel it while you're doing it. You're like, I have to do this.
This is where I'm supposed to be.
This is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I like fishing and I like turkey hunting. It's fine. Like, I don't feel that feeling as to when I'm deer hunting where I'm like, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I had influence, like there, and that's probably part of it. There's some nurture aspect to it. But I think there's definitely something in us that's like, that's who you are.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think that's what gets a lot of husbands in trouble with hunting, like with their wives. Like,
oh yeah,
there's just that drive, and a lot of guys can't shut it off.
Yeah, it's like, we have to do it.
Yeah,
and it's fleeting too. It's like, there's a point we say it every year. We'll be like, okay, it's opening weekend this week. We can't wait, and then the next week we're like, well, opening weekend didn't go like we thought, but man, we got the whole season and it's December. And then we're like, what just happened? Like, it's gone. It's done. It's over. So yeah, I mean, there's that part of it, and we've had a lot.
It's reckless in that way, but you almost love it.
We've had that conversation with a lot of people. Like,
I love the pain.
From a hunt standpoint,
it is reckless.
Like I got into a mode there for a while where I scouted. The moment I hunted, it might not be till October 20th, 25th, and I would kill, but it was all strategic. And then, I look back on that now, maybe because I'm older and I've killed more bucks, but it's like, I don't know if that's the way I want to do it. Like I was super effective, but I did not sit in a tree from opening day until almost November, basically.
That's what I'm struggling with now, because I know I shouldn't go into my property and
need
hunt
more
it.
states.
Yeah,
I think that's it. That's my solution. I mean, September 7th, I will be trying to kill a velvet whitetail on my Kentucky place. Can't do that anywhere else. North Dakota, technically, or South Dakota.
That's where I'm like, all right, I can be reckless in Ohio a couple of days a week and then save my property for him or for whatever, because I like to go. Yeah, I like to throw my stand on and go.
Options are that's what I mean. That's where you put the work in, is to to gain options, and that's what makes consistently successful guys is to have that. Yeah. Even within a certain state, like my home farm in Ohio, for a long time, we couldn't get the deer on it that I wanted to kill. And in the meantime, there's five of us that hunt it, and sometimes 6. So it's like, it's not getting out of it what I want. And I was like putting a lot of work into the food plots and stuff. And then like one of our guys would shoot a 3-year-old, and it's just like, and I was the bad guy because I was making the rules. So the answer was options. I got permission from a friend that had some neighboring farms that we could just not go on ever, and they would get good deer on them. So I would just like spend all the time on my farm and develop it, make it great for, myself, but our guys, more than anything. And that's where home base was. That's where camp was. And then I set everybody out to their stands, and then I went to that farm and killed a booner on it.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it was awesome. It was even beyond that. I was like, I got to bring everybody to the farm to recover it. So everybody was there. So I got what I wanted. Everybody else got what they wanted, and like everybody was happy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's a good way to handle it. I've had similar instances on my property with neighbors and stuff like that. I won't get into all that, but it's taxing when you're trying to do something and you almost feel like defeated when you can't.
You feel stupid. You feel stupid. I felt stupid because I was like, I'm spending thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours putting the food on this place and getting doing all this and that, and for just and it wasn't our guys' fault. It was like just the reality of like we have corn piles and crossbows, long seasons, neighbors, and they would get killed. They just would get killed, and I was just like, it seemed out of my control. And it still is to a degree. I mean,
it's getting better.
Are continually advocating for Ohio to get rid of corn piles. I think it's a big problem in the state. I think that would help.
Change it right away.
That would be pretty drastic, but it is what it is in the meantime, so.
Do you guys use the
That's
corn?
why we go to Illinois.
Do you guys use corn in Ohio?
Yeah.
Just because everybody
else buying 10,000 pounds next week. $1,400.
Yeah,
I don't want to.
It's the hypocrites in us,
No, it's not. It's not even hypocritical though.
We don't want to. If we don't, everybody else will see the deer and they'll shoot the deer, which is fine. I
love
mean,
for it to be gone.
It is what it is, but yeah, it's hard to like, as crazy as it seems, and I still have like a tough time just from like a biological side thinking it. It's like I've got food, I've got covered. I did TSI on my property recently. Like, I mean, everything about it would say like this should be like the deer should stay here, and then the guy drops 2,000 pounds of corn, 50, 100 yards from the property, and like. That's where the deer go and eat because it's just there and it's easy and it's
an override. It's a cheat code, yeah.
And
we've used it. We killed deer. I've probably killed a buck off corn, but I'm sure I have.
Sure.
Yeah, there's both. You get both spectrums because even though it's illegal in PA, there's people that do it.
Oh.
And then for the guys that are doing it right, struggle because of that. So
nearly every deer
there's
is killed
both
on
sides.
this
Like at least in
mountain
Ohio, everybody's doing it, so you can just participate or not participate. Or in PA. The right people, the ethical people, the people that are following the law don't do it, but then there's people that do and kill your deer.
I think drones would be a big part of patrolling.
Yeah, sure. Because it would put off heat, right?
I don't know exactly.
I mean, it would at least, like if you did it in like November, December, it's probably cold enough that if the deer are congregated around a bait area, like you should be able to see it and be like, yep, there's the bait area.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking like from the fermenting side
maybe.
of corn.
Maybe.
It might put off heat.
I don't know.
Bet there's something. I bet there's something.
Guys will tell you that in like the wintertime, if you fly over Ohio, you'll just see
I know for a fact.
Yellow, just all over the place.
I just posted a thing to our story the other day. There's like drive-in 24/7 drive-through corn distributors. You just pull up any time of day or night, you drive under the thing, put your money in, and it dumps it out. And the post, it was their Facebook post that I just like shared, was like, we're expanding. We're so much demand. Like, it's great. And they do. Like, people are I told you, I'm buying 10,000 pounds. And that my intention is to bait defensively. I want to have it for, we're going to use, as long as it's legal, I'm going to use it to my advantage. Like mainly for inventory, for doe harvest, like, frankly, if the right situation, dude, there's a buck on a fringe piece of property that I have that's like probably pushing 180. Very likely could kill him over corn the first. It's the only way I'll get that deer killed because he leaves. Mm-hmm. That is probably hypocritical. in a way.
It's legal.
Because it's like, I don't like that that's happening, but if it's legal, I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to if you want to have a chance.
And if you don't like it, let's get rid of it. Let's get rid of baiting.
Yeah, because the opponent view of that is, well, if you don't like it, just don't do it.
Doesn't work.
Yeah.
The main thing, the main reason
No.
that I'm buying it is for the week leading up to gun season. We dump as much internally as we can and keep pressure off. And I do think, at least last year, it seemed to help get some of those deer through.
Yeah. My problem is I live 3 hours from my Ohio place, and there's outfitters around me, so they're putting corn out daily.
Constantly.
And so
their job, literally.
even if I go out and put 2,000 pounds down, like it's gone in a week, and I'm not there for another week and a half, like they're out.
They're gone. They're moving on to the next one.
My only hope is that they're over hunting and pressuring, that it's driving them into me, but that's a stretch.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just
Tough.
the
Have
reality
you
of it.
been hunting Ohio for a little while, or?
No, I mean, yeah, for years I've been going out there just for a day here, on public land, but never any private stuff.
Have you gotten into anything good?
No,
No.
not really.
What's the pressure seem like?
High.
Yeah, you're going first 2 weeks of
Yeah.
November.
Yeah, October, November. Not venturing too far across either.
Are you going just over like Mercer and Beaver line?
Yeah, roughly. I've been down to like Egypt.
Yep.
I have been down to southern Ohio.
Egypt looks good.
It's so rough to hunt.
It-
I've gone
and it
almost
gets
lost in
Pounded.
there.
Yeah,
And it
all
gets
that
pounded.
autumn olive up in there. Well, the reason you hunt that is because it feels very comfortable to Punxsutawney area. Just hunting the old strip mines and stuff. That's what I grew up hunting. So when I see autumn, most guys are like, "Oh, I don't want." I'm like, "I'm."
Well, that's what drew it
my
to me. I was
wheelhouse.
like, there's not going to be too many idiots like me going in there. And then it's midnight and I'm still trying to get out because all my GPS went down. And
yeah,
it's, like,
it's
where
nasty
am I?
in there.
But
Southern
yeah, and
Ohio's
then-
got a lot of space still, but you're back into the big woods side of things. Like my property is fairly big woods, Ohio, and it's Ohio. It's better than Pennsylvania, but it's not easy.
yeah.
There's a lot. I mean, those deer have tens of thousands of acres of contiguous woods to hit.
I've went with Nathan a few times to Ohio and Virginia. So
Yeah, Virginia is really tough as well.
yeah.
That's a really tough spot.
What I've went with him a couple of times, and what he does to try to kill deer blows my mind.
Yeah.
Like it's changed now because back then gear was pretty heavy.
Sure.
But
Yeah,
I thought I worked
hiking
hard.
in
I thought
35
I
pound
worked hard,
climbers
and
and
then
stuff.
I was like, dude, you're hiking this every day. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, yep. And I mean, all day sits out in the mountains,
Ugh.
cold weather, free. I mean, when I went, it was super cold, and I'd literally it rained, and it's just miserable.
Yeah.
And dude, those guys are intense. Like
That's
the
my-
ones getting it done,
Yeah.
they're doing it.
That's
you
my
know?
kryptonite is the all day sit. My brain is
It's tough.
I've got ADD or something. I can't do it.
I've got a.
It's a real struggle bus for me. Like I have to be in deer, like to basically next thing I know, it's like, oh, it's 1 o'clock. I'm just going to stay.
Yeah, I'm
Because
the same way.
If I fall off at like 10 o'clock, there's no deer. I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I'm getting out.
I miss a big. It would have been the biggest buck I ever killed in Kansas a couple of years ago. It was like 1 o'clock.
1:30. Yeah.
1:30, and it was like I was gonna sit all day because it was way in there, and can't remember if at the time I was still kayaking.
You were
I was kayaking across.
kayaking across.
So I the first time I kayaked all the way down this river because I was like, I'll just go down river, and it was like X marks the spot. Like it was public with private right here and preserve right here. And the only way to get to it from land is to walk all the way through the public and push it all the way out. And I figured out that I could put in with a kayak. We found one in town. I just like bummed a kayak off of somebody.
Put a little flex seal on that bad boy.
It had a hole on it. So yeah, flexing on it. And I had my lone wolf on the front, and I had my bow, and I had my bag. And I was like,
I mean, and you were not very far above water level. Like, I mean,
she was tight.
you were sitting deep.
And I kayaked all the way down there, whatever it was, a couple
Yeah.
miles. And I crossed up over the bank, and like it's perfect. And so I found this X marks the spot stand. It's not like a real tight pinch, but it's just like you look at it on a map, it's like, there it is. And so I hung that afternoon, and whatever, saw a couple of small bucks or something. So got out, got in the kayak, kayaked across the river rather than up it. And then the other side was public out to the road. And so I could come in and out now that the kayak was there. And so the next day I came in, hunted the morning. I don't remember, saw some bucks and stuff, but then died down around 10:30. And at 1 or 1:30, I called my wife and was checking in. I was in that far. I was going to sit all day. And we knew the buck I was in there after. It's called Pretty Boy. It's just a real beautiful, heavy 160, probably 4-year-old. And I'm on the phone with my wife, and I like turn and look around, and freaking there he is, like 30 yards trotting down the fence line right to me. And I'm like, I gotta go. And I just throw the phone down, grab my bow, turn. Before I know, he jumps the fence right in front of me, walks a few steps. I draw, stop him, and shoot. And it goes friggin' right like through the top of his shoulder blade. Like I knew instantly not lethal. I thought he was 30 and he was 20.
Oh, how big was he?
He was like 160. Yeah, he's probably like 160, but for sure the big steer. And that right there is the reason that if I can force myself to sit all day, it's because that happened. Well, it's big of a heartbreaker as it was, but
I found myself not even sometimes hunting mornings or evenings, depending on what time of the year it is. So if it's during the rut, I'd rather sit midday.
You'll just go midday.
Yeah, because I feel like any smart, mature buck knows that those are up and moving around in the morning and evening. Why not wait till they're bedded just like a bull elk and go cruise their bedding area? They just go down one of the bedding area, cruise that bedding area, cruise this bedding area. All their deer are now, in beds and localized versus spread out.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
I love that late morning during the rut. Like, it's amazing how many mature bucks you'll see at like 9:30.
Yeah, during that time, guys are killing deer. What time did you kill at 11? What time did you kill at 12? 1. They're all like later in that morning. So that's a tactic that I've used a lot during the rut is like, and partially because of my own practice, I'd have like a long lunch break. So I'd like grab my shit and go to the woods, and I'd hunt midday, and I'd see most of the good buck activity midday.
So, I mean, obviously if you had all day, you would not like give up a morning for midday? No. Okay. Because I always wondered, like, some guys will say that. They're like, I've killed all my bucks from 10 to 2.
Yeah. Who we were talking to that said, like, they're like, we go in at gray light because I'm not worried about first thing in the morning. I'm worried about, 10 to 2, basically.
I've learned.
Several people I know that do that.
And I've learned it, too, based off thermals and access. So on my property, I know if I go up top in the morning, I'm just shooting myself in the foot. So if I just get in just a little later, little after thermals start pulling, I'm safer. So, and typically by the time they get there from the ag fields, it's later in the morning anyways.
Yep.
There's been times I've blown bucks off that hill that were up there early waiting for them to come back versus just if I'd have waited, not going in the dark, chances are I could have got in there.
That's important what you're saying. And I think that there's like a difference in properties. Like some of the ones, I would say my farm in Ohio is like, I don't see, and sometimes, we get it, but you don't see like you do like in the Midwest or like where there's big ag country and stuff. Like there's clear distinction. In Illinois, we have that. Like at the pinch stand, we know they're coming from that way.
Yeah, so we know they're there. Yeah. We're gonna get in there way before.
I would never wait. I would never wait till after light because they're already there.
They're coming. Yep.
But in other situations, like where they're more intertwined, like you're saying, where the deer are all, including the bucks, they're on their feet at at dawn and beforehand. So it's like it's extremely risky unless you have the cleanest access in the world from the back door to go in before daylight. At least once it's daylight, like you can now kind of see.
I think that's
especially if you're walking through a field or something.
I was gonna say I think that's the morning mistake. And I mean, obviously, growing up, it was like, you're up whatever 2 hours before daylight, an hour before daylight. You're walking in, you're sitting in the dark for a half hour. That's just how you did it, right? Like you needed to be there. Yeah. Now, like there are certain places where it's like, I don't, rare occasion, but I don't know if I can hunt the morning here at all. Like just because of what's at risk if I go in. Now, there's certain times of the year where it's like, okay, balls to the wall. I gotta I got to pull this cord now. But for most of it, it's like anytime I go in there, I'm just blowing deer out.
Yeah.
Like I'm just busting deer.
So for instance, we just talked this morning. Jeremy and I had one this morning. We're talking through like our Illinois stands.
Mm-hmm.
I think Carl's corner, which the stand is like, it's right behind the house, and it's a fence gap
field
between our big standing grain fields. I don't think that I wouldn't advise that you walk up in there in the dark and get in that stand. I think you're going to blow a bunch of deer out of that field. That would be one where you go up just after dawn. The deer have all kind of filtered off, and a big one is going to come and cruise through that and check it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That would be an instance where I'm like, I wouldn't go in there before dark because it's on a food source. It's
on a big food source, a destination food source. Yeah, I think when you're like your place, that transition food, all day long, I'm up in there.
Yeah.
I'm slipping in there knowing
that's like the pinch. I would get in there
because it's a transition plot. Yeah, like my Kentucky one, I've got big destination fills intertwined with a lot of mine. Like if I'm not coming in from a back door, like
I think that's a lot of what property management is trying to distinguish differences between destination, transition, and bedding areas.
Yeah,
so that you can capitalize on that movement
and strategically planning them in places where like you have
access,
really good access, or like this one spot on my property, it doesn't matter what the wind's doing. I'm golden in that tree.
Yep.
And it's just the way
just
the
foolproof.
thermals are. Like,
yeah.
I've had my wind blowing straight behind me. You'd think it'd be blowing up into the bedding area.
Mm-hmm.
And the way the thermals are poling, like my scent just climbs and climbs and climbs. Like I've never been busted in that tree ever. It's just, and the only reason I've learned it is by being in it and dropping milkweed. And I'm like, this is bulletproof. This is a bulletproof setup. This is where I'm going to kill the majority of my deer. And I've killed 3 out of the 5 deer that I've killed on my property out of that stand.
It's funny, yeah.
I think for every one of those there's 5 stands that it doesn't matter what wind you hunted on. You're toast.
Yeah.
I've got 2 of those, unfortunately, that I'm like, freaking what wind do you hunt this on?
Well, that's where I was going to say, I've got 28 acres here on the mountain behind my house, which mainly is for kids. Like set it up. If there's a big buck, I'll hunt them. But like most of the time it's for the kids. The way that it sets up, because it's a big valley coming off the hill, and then it kind of spreads like right at the end before it gets to mine, is like my plot essentially goes east to west. But on any north or south wind, the way that it comes in and funnels, like it'll almost be like a dead west wind every time. Just the way the terrain kind of pushes it, and it also play with the thermals and stuff. But and
you'll be at home and you'll be like, okay, it's this way, and then you'll get there and you're like,
any which way. Like so I put one of those, I've got like a little weather meter in my plot, and as soon as I'm walking up to it, I'll look and I'm like, son of a bitch, just straight west. Like it could be I know it's a north wind, but just with the way that it gets deflected with all the terrain, it'll end up coming through that gap west.
That's the tough part of PA. I've learned to use water for my advantage a lot.
Yeah.
Like rivers and creeks, I hunt a lot of bottoms.
Just getting things to pull you down through.
Those rivers will pull your wind and just.
Yep.
That's why I killed that buck. He was probably 3.5, 4-year-old. Never had any history of this deer, but I found a scrape. I accessed it perfect. I was like, this is going to be golden. And he should have busted me, but because of the river there,
he just didn't.
He didn't know I was there.
So we'll have a good test of that this year. At that,
it didn't work for me last year.
I know.
I assume it was because the west wind was a little bit strong that night.
Yeah.
Because the river,
that makes a difference.
Creek was pulling creek was pulling east to west. Wind was coming from the west, and those deer sitting east of me were getting me every freaking time.
So it was not pulling the thermals.
The weather's like everything there. If it's a warmer evening and the thermals are pulling, and you're going to get away with it. If
it
the
sure
sun was
felt
high.
like they should have been, but
I
think it was just whether it was 7 to 10 or whatever, it was just enough wind that it wasn't.
Well, and that may honestly make the difference. I mean, so we have 3 spots in that like they're all within 50 yards, 80 yards of each other. If you get down there and it's the wind is ripping through, you probably need to be in death row.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but if it's like pretty stagnant and you think it's going to catch it and go down, you probably want to be upwind of it.
That's the fun part of it. That's what I love. Like, I don't care what weapon it is.
When did you start paying attention to the thermals?
What was the question?
When did you start paying attention to thermals?
So it'd have been It was when Dan Infault just started putting stuff out.
Okay.
I
So it was a
remember
while-
that
it
video.
was
I
a
remember
long time
dropping
ago,
him
but
over the pond.
Dude,
Like
that video?
I would just watch his
Epic.
stuff.
Like Hill
Yeah.
Country Bucks type time frame?
After. I think after.
I've got all of
You've
those
seen that
over
video
there.
of him. I don't know where it's at, but it's like he's
Yeah,
next
he's
to a pond
milkweeding.
and he's just dropping it and it goes over the pond and then it goes straight up.
It was like before he even had any videos. I was watching, like, reading his forums. Like, I'd just get on the forums and scour them. It's kind of when I started Trad Geeks, like, not changing the subject,
So-
but like,
yeah.
I started Trad Geeks out as a forum, a traditional bow hunting forum, because of an issue my buddy and I had. And I was like, screw it, I'll just build my own.
Build my own, yeah.
And then it led to other things.
Yeah.
But I think that's when I started
So
watching,
probably
paying attention to it.
mid 2000s, late 2000s.
I bet you it was 13,
Yeah.
14.
Yeah. Because I mean, it seems so crazy because when we were younger, it was like, I don't know. I hunted the same damn stand every day.
Yeah.
I don't know what one
Do any
was.
of us feel like we've mastered thermals?
No.
Anybody feel like you fully understand how
Not
they
at
work?
all.
And just when you think you do something,
No, the
there's a
basic
wrench.
concepts, right? Rising, sinking type. But like to your point, you said you got into that stand when you killed that buck and you're like, you immediately felt the thermals pull. That's not a guarantee every night.
No, it's not.
People think it is.
But when you feel it
Nor will
and
they
it's a
rise
big
every
rush,
morning.
it's like,
Right, exactly. Nor will they rise every morning. But people think, well, thermals are going to rise tomorrow morning. It's like,
I know. My dad
No.
thinks they rise every single morning. Yeah.
well,
Well, in the same way, it's funny how they come from like anecdotes or whatever. Like my uncle in the same way is like, when smoke from the chimney is going up, thermals are rising. But to me, I'm like, isn't that hot? I'm like, isn't that hot? Well, because there are nights where you see it and it just goes like this.
Yeah.
It falls. So, I mean, there maybe is something to that.
yeah, from a pole standpoint.
But it's also hot air. So I don't,
yeah.
which I put a lot of off. So
Well, and again, yeah, I mean, what are we all doing? We're doing milkweed and stuff to try to like.
that'll catch thermals. It'll tell you.
But I mean, is that going to be the same way our scent's going to move? Like,
will.
I mean, it's subjective. I mean, we don't know like how
should.
our scent is
Should.
coming off. It should.
Because the milkweed is following the current.
Yes.
No matter what, whether it's wind
Yep.
or thermal.
Correct.
That's what your scent would do too.
Yep.
yeah.
We think.
I think it's but then again, it also comes down to the spot, like whether there's a creek or stream in the bottom, or you're in an open field or whatever. Like, it's like you drop that thermal, it should be going up, and it's like it's just we've all seen it just do this,
Yeah.
just like sitting there.
Yeah, it's like right here.
What's it doing?
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Sever.
Well, one of the biggest things that we always talk about is what our arrow setups are. And this year we're shooting the Sever broadheads. I think we're both shooting the new 2-inch titanium broadhead. And so, we're huge proponents of expandables. And I know we've had this argument back and forth with people, but
We're right and you're wrong, and you just need to accept it.
We just want to have a giant wound that pumps out blood. That's the bottom line.
We build our arrow setups and shoot bows, to maximize penetration, and we shoot broadheads that are going to give us the best blood trails, the most hemorrhage possible. And so part of those setups is we're also shooting the Easton arrows here coming up pretty soon. So we've shot the Victory in the past, and there's all kind of great arrow shafts on the market, but like we're looking for a whole system from broadhead to arrow components to the arrow shaft itself. And the more we look at some of these Easton shafts and the components that go with them, that setup's going to be really deadly for us.
Yeah, I'm actually using the Easton traditional axis right now in my traditional setups for both my recurve and my longbow. I've got a 100-grain brass insert on those, and then obviously I'm using a fixed blade broadhead on those specific shafts.
Right on.
So, but yeah, our goal is always to be shooting the best broadhead that we think is going to be the most lethal for our setups. We've done plenty of research. We believe in the Sever broadheads, and we hope you would check them out at Sever Broadheads as well.
Okay, so explain thermals to us. Your perspective.
Dude, I'm not just the basic general knowledge you guys have. And I've found like on hotter days that are going to have a drastic drop, or a colder morning going to a drastic rise in heat.
Yeah.
You have more pull.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so either pull up in the morning because it's heating up fast, or pull down in the evening because it's cooling
Like a prime
fast.
example, in 2011, I killed, it was the last compound buck I had.
Okay.
The more drastic the change is what you're saying.
Yep,
Yeah.
the harder
Colder the night,
pull.
the hotter the day.
Yep.
The more drastic the thermal.
I think so.
In either direction.
At least
I think
that's
you're
what
right. I think
I've
you're right.
witnessed when I'm in a stand. Because in 2011, I was literally, my wife and I were dating. And she's like, "What are you doing?" I was like sleeping in. She's like, and I just graduated chiropractic school, waiting for my licensure to come. So I had all of October to hunt. And I was in Indiana at her house. And she's like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "You can't kill him laying here." And I was hunting hard. I was like, So I got up, I drove to Punxsutawney early in the morning, literally was running down this trail, like a public trail, sprinting. This is how insane I was. It's crazy. Sprinted in it. I was climbing up the tree with a climber, sweating, like dripping in sweat. But I had a really good deer over a scrape on a camera there, so I knew he was coming. I stunk that place up to high heaven. Like, there's no reason I should have killed that deer, but the thermals were it was so cold that day and warming up so fast. Everything was just lifting.
Straight up.
And nothing smelled me.
Mm-hmm.
I got lucky.
Dude, those are the deadliest times too. So that we kind of get. Like in the mornings, you're like, if it's a really cold morning and the sun comes out and it starts heating things up really quick, the atmosphere starts to rise.
I attribute those, like, sometimes those frosty mornings. Yeah. As soon as the sun starts to hit those frosty morning areas, like, they're going straight up.
So what I don't understand, and it does happen, but I don't know what situation creates it, is when thermals rise in the evening. Like, because it's not almost ever getting warmer at night than it is during the day.
Yeah.
And yet, definitely they rise sometimes.
On the pressure days. Like,
is it pressure?
I think it's a humidity relation. Yeah. I think when it's like a pressure system comes through, like low pressure comes through, usually your humidity goes up. And then as that high pressure sits in, that humidity drops. And I think that
pushes air up.
That has some sort of effect on a thermal rising, just purely in an evening standpoint.
And I'd be willing to bet the temperature drop wasn't that significant.
Correct. Pretty normal across the board.
As soon as that sun sits down, the temperature's not dropping drastically.
Right. So it's not as dependent on the temperature as it is on the pressure.
Then the next morning, you're going to have thermals rising because it's going to be super cold that morning as that high pressure set in, and then that sun's going to hit it, and it's going to warm up pretty quick.
But
that moisture probably sits low and holds cold, too.
That has to be.
There's been nights I'm sitting there, I'm like, waiting.
It just never does it. It has to be something around the humidity being tied also then to low pressure, high pressure systems.
Dude, I told Bill Thompson at Spartan Forge, I was like, dude, if you could create a layer that would show how the atmosphere interacts with topography, I mean, especially if you could integrate thermals. Can you imagine?
Done.
Take my money.
Yeah. Yep, that'd be it. That's all I want.
Yep.
Here's my credit card.
Yeah, I mean,
nobody knows. Nobody can figure that out.
And it's that feeling too, right? Like, how many times have you been sitting there and you're like, oh, this just feels really good. Yeah. And most of the time it's when those thermals change and cold temperature drops. It just feels good.
Sometimes you don't know. You can go out there and be like, it doesn't feel like that good of a night. And then all of a sudden it's like, there they go. And you're like, okay. Yeah. And they know that too. I think they get up and move when that happens.
Well,
that's exactly what the buck's doing. He's setting up there.
Yep.
Setting in that tunnel with the wind.
Yep, coming straight through.
And as soon as those thermals
Explain
change,
that tunnel. A lot of people don't understand that.
So the scent's pulling up until the sun drops. So say it's a mountainside, the wind's, it's so hard to do without like a board and drawing. You know, the wind's coming off that backside, coming down the mountain one way, and the thermals are pulling up the other side. So where the wind and the thermals meet creates a tunnel, and the bucks usually will lead, like say it's a skitter trail, they'll lay right on that skitter trail so they can smell in both directions and then look down the mountain. But as soon as those thermals switch,
what an epiphany! You remember learning them for the first time?
I remember sitting in one for the first time and like throwing milkweed. And I was like,
"This isn't good. Why am I here?"
What?
Unless you're down a little bit, it can be good. But then once the thermal switch, that buck doesn't have that advantage, so then he tries to get it.
Which is where, like, and I understand why, but you know, a lot of people, and maybe it's just my aggressive hunting style, don't like going into like a thermal hub in the bottom to hunt. They're just like, wind swirls. Like you're just, if you hit that right on a thermal when it's pulling down, because normally there's a creek down there too, right? So if you access that, creek's pulling it away, thermals are sinking, those bucks are dropping into there, dead.
Yeah,
because they're coming for the advantage.
There's a community scrape
and there's
down there
too. Scent element.
But you know, if you time it wrong, like you can like if those thermals never pull down and that wind kicks, it's just a tornado down there. You know,
it's so awesome to witness. Like when it happens and you're like, this is gonna happen.
So you're hunting in bottoms a lot.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
For that reason exactly we're talking about?
Somewhat.
Kind of.
Because I understand it better and I can control it more. But like he's been sitting in the blind with me. I'm like, buddy, get ready. They're going to be coming. He's like, how do you know? I'm like, thermals just didn't
drop.
you feel that? And he's like, yeah, it just got really cold.
And that's
like,
so
get
cool.
ready. And here they come. Yeah.
Man,
It's like,
I don't know if
why did we sit here for 2 hours before this?
in an evening,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a better like bow hunting feeling in like October when you're like, okay, it was like whatever, 65, 70 in the day. And then all of a sudden you just feel that like cool over and you're like,
You know what? I mean, we've been on to it. Like even it's like it wouldn't be unfamiliar to hear like hunt high in the mornings and low in the evenings. Whoever said that first maybe didn't understand why, but I think that has a lot to do with thermals generally rising in the morning and bucks wanting to have the advantage on a ridge versus low in the evening, thermals falling, bucks want to have the advantage there.
That's a struggle though. That's why I don't go up high too early, because that happens when the sun starts to rise. So if you're in there before daylight, your
low.
thermals are
They're
pulling down that
dropping.
hill. And a lot of times the bucks go up before daybreak and wait for the does to come. So you're blowing them out of that mountain before you even get up there. So a lot of times I'll stage halfway, and then once the thermal, like the sun comes up, I'll get down and then go to my.
that'll be my. I was gonna say like, so in Ohio, like I've got this giant ridge system. It runs the whole way around me. Down in the bottom is like my core food, right? I've got now 4 kind of staging plots up on that ridge. But if I go up into that in the first thing in the morning before, it's pulling it straight down into where the core food is, right? So I have east access on a west wind or whatever. I'm going to get up. I get on my perimeter road that stays kind of mid-level. And then as that sun comes up, I creep up. As that sun comes up, I creep up until I can feel it pull. And then I'll get whatever staging plot I want to get into, because they should be down in the bottom until those thermals start to rise. And then
They're not in a hurry to get up there because the wind's in their favor. They
don't want to be up there.
No. But then as soon as it changes, they want to be up there. So it's just like you said, having to creep up there and getting up there at the right time.
I'll give some middle ground too. I mean, there's a third option where, there's not that many of them, but where you can access that thermal tunnel where they're bedding perpendicular to some sort of a feature, a water hole, a scrape. That's the deadliest one.
Yes.
Right. If you can come in, that's the stands I always talk about. The Jared and Margie stand, the Tincha gas line stand. That's what that is. You come in perpendicular because it's at the end of the bedding area, whatever it is. There's cattle pasture on this side. It's ag.
It doesn't matter what's going.
They're going to get up, and the first thing they're going to do is, because the wind's in their favor, like it has been all day, they're going to come this way to it.
Yeah,
and you're going to be there.
Well, it ultimately is why I think most experienced whitetail hunters feel more in control in an evening because of first of all, being able to see to get into a spot, being able to just simply play wind, right? And in theory, they should be thinking about what's going to happen when the thermals pull too. But most of that is fairly foolproof as long as they're paying attention to what they see going in and which way the wind direction is. In the morning, I think they can be very successful, but I would assume most of the mature bucks are getting blown. Because of their approach into that stuff.
That's exactly why. Yeah, because in the afternoon, you're more likely to have successful access in. Where they're blowing it is you don't have good access out.
Oh, you're screwed.
But by that time, most people think, I didn't blow anything during the hunt. It doesn't matter if I blow them on the way out.
I'm just going to slip out of here. Yeah, and they're done.
So, but then you probably have, I don't know statistically if guys come more in the morning or evening, but if you go in there and have good access and you happen to kill them that first time, then no problem. There was no.
I mean, I think people kill a lot of deer in the morning, just, especially just from an activity level type standpoint. But I would say it's not necessarily like mature animals, like a 2-year-old buck and stuff. Like I could go up and sit in that plot and like my thermals could be dropping right down to him. He's still going to come up over to that plot and check it out.
Have you kept track morning or evening if you've had more success?
I've killed more in the morning.
Have you?
But that's because I hunt more in the morning. I had the ability to.
Yeah,
so,
which plays a huge factor.
Obviously, I'm going to kill more in the morning because I hunt more mornings, but it was only because of convenience. But I do find evenings to be easier to hunt.
I bet I'm damn close to 50-50.
I think I kill more of my deer in the evenings because in big woods, it's easier for me to get in. it's not easy for me to get into those areas in the mornings. A lot of cases, unless I know they have like a destination field they're coming off of. But like if I compared my ag country deer, like most of those deer I killed in Kansas, I killed in the morning because it was, I knew where they were staging and I could slip in and get up there in the morning and kill them when they came back. I can't do that in most of the farms I hunt back here. So I think it's situational and like what your farm and geography looks like right around you too. It's not surprising that you kill more deer. I would think you kill more deer in your morning.
On the Ohio farm?
Just because of the way it sets up. But I don't know.
I don't know. I'd have to look back at it.
Yeah,
I wish I kept good records.
My property now, it sets up better for evenings.
Yeah.
But I have great access. My house is west of the whole property.
Yep.
And all my access is west of the property. So.
Yep. Yeah. No, that makes it huge. Yeah. So like my house, I'm coming from east to west, right? So on that west wind tunnel, basically, I'm walking right into it. I mean, and I'm 150. I pop right up in with the kids in the blind. Like I could go and hunt it every morning if I wanted to, and every evening, because it's, deer might be in the plot, but they're hitting it and moving, hitting and moving, hitting and moving. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's, I think, the situation. The destination thing is a big one. Where are those deer going?
That's
so
huge.
that you can know where they're going and where they're coming from to be able to sit that.
Without that, there's no rhyme or reason. They're just where they're at. If you don't have a destination food source, that's what makes the big woods so challenging to hunt.
Yes.
Not that there isn't one, but you don't. They're
just
changing
roaming
so quickly.
Yeah, they're roaming.
Or it could be everywhere, like in an acorn yard type of a deal. That's a big advantage that ag offers. Is there's a point A and a point B, and you just got to get between it.
I can't believe though, like how many years, early in my bow hunting career, I was sitting on the destination plot, like
in the morning
on the. It was the only stand. I built it out of 2x4s. It was the only stand I had.
You're right.
In the morning, in the evening, I went up and I sat in my stand and I'm looking at a 45-acre bean field, and it's like,
here we go.
There they all are. Like they're out there, or we talked about it before where you're walking in, you're blowing, you're like, man, they're all in here right now. Yeah, because they're just blowing them out like all over the place. You didn't know any better.
Done that. Yeah, we didn't.
You had no idea. You just thought you're in. Then again, at that point, man, if it had a 3-inch spike, I was toasting it.
Oh,
you know? So yeah, I think it's. But there's a lot of guys that still do it. Same with the cameras. It's like, sure, go put all your cameras on those big bean fields and stuff right now, and you're gonna get bucks coming in. But man, the moment they change their transition onto acorns or whatever, and they're like, I don't know, they're gone. It's like, no, they're just not in a bean field that's turned yellow at this point.
Yeah, changed their food.
They moved. So your stand sitting on there, you're not seeing anything because they're not there.
Yep.
But that seems like such a hard mindset for guys to break because deer become so visible. Like this is going, what did we say, August 13th or something? August 13th. Deer, you drive by any bean field at dark and like they're deer in those bean fields. Yeah. And so like they're just like, they're there. Now October 1st or whatever comes around, different story. But you kept seeing them there, so you think like that's my stand's gonna be right in that corner. It's gonna be perfect. It's like, no, that's not where you want to be.
You can kill them on a bean field.
You can't. Yeah. You can. But I mean, if you're sitting on
if there's anything left,
if you're sitting on a 50-acre bean field with a bow, that's a lot of room to cover.
Well,
unless you have a reason. Like, for instance, that buck I killed a few years ago at 5 yards. It was a huge bean field. Mm-hmm. They were all brown. Mm-hmm. I wasn't on that farm all year. I found hot sign, and I set up on it, and they just happened to be picking the corn up top.
Yeah, so he wasn't going that way.
I knew he was coming, and he came to that scrape, and I watched him walk 300 yards to it across the bean field right to that spot. It's like, did I get lucky? Well, I was just, I went off my gut and was like, hot sign.
Hot scrape, and at that time, man, those get overlooked way too easy. Yeah. Especially in the woods. Yeah, a scrape. Like just a worked over.
Just a big community scrape.
Dude, there's your proof right there. It's like, there he is. He put that there. Like you can try to decipher if it was daytime or not, but.
Not tooting my own horn, but like there was this grass ditch that ran the whole way across the soybean field. Mm-hmm. And when I walked the edge of the field, I got to that ditch and I looked across and I saw that scrape, and I was like, well, I'm not going to cross this ditch just in case. So I went way down around, walked through the creek, and came up the backside.
Oh, wow.
If I'd have crossed that ditch, he would have
hit you right away. Mm-hmm.
So just little things, paying attention to those details, I think make the big difference. You know?
That's the chess
How many
match,
times
man.
do we screw that up?
Oh,
you know.
Well, how many times you screw it up and you don't even know. Screwed.
Yeah,
that we
what
talk
I mean.
about that all the time. It's like, man, how many big bucks get downwind from you or cross your tracks or whatever, and you never even know that deer's there, but he knows you're there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. Yeah. That's the cool part about seeing like visible areas. It's like a lot of times you see the mistake happen. You're like, oh, he caught me.
And where you're putting that scent. So like in that case, I had to walk in a road. He crossed that road. So he smelled my scent on that road, but he was comfortable with my scent there because there's been scent there before.
Yep. Yeah.
If he would have caught my scent where it was at.
Mm-hmm. A blue paint area. Yeah, we talk about that all the time. There's areas that like they're inevitable that you're going to drop scent or somebody's dropping scent or whatever, right? And the deer will cross those. Mm-hmm. They'll interact with that, but they're not alarmed by the scent because it's there, right? You have claimed that area. It's an active area. It's a home site, whatever. Then there's areas that are like, it's their area. There should be no scent from you. Mm-hmm. You drip your paint through that, they don't like it.
Yep.
They're not having it. And that's a tough, I mean, we're still even gathering that, but it's a tough thing to think about. But as you play back scenarios, you know, it becomes pretty clear over time where you're like, I went through that thinking like I was clean. I was not clean. They knew I was there, and that blew it all.
That's the fun part of property management too, is like claiming those areas and being like, I want them to know this is my area.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I think it helps big time. You can you can just set it up for yourself, and there's fun in that too. So some people are like, well, that kind of takes away from the hunt. You're setting that property up. You know how you're going to kill them. Yeah, kind of, but it's fun setting it up.
It's it's a blast. I mean, anymore I must get more fun out of setting it up and just growing them and seeing what's there. And then, you know, the chess match and the pursuit of the season is unbelievable. Like I said, you know, but if I have that focus on a big deer and I kill him first week, like it's anticlimactic to a point.
Yeah.
You know, and I hate saying that because that's what everybody's striving for, but it's the truth. It's like, man, I'd love to just play chess match with that deer until December and then finally catch up with him versus first week, first sit. There he is. I killed him. And I'm like, yeah. And we hear that from guys like, Jared and I were with, when we were in Illinois, we were with Chris Brackett, and, you know, Brackett has his own background and stuff, but like Chris killed 2 high 70s deer in like 2 sits in late October, like back to back. Right. And like, I could just tell him that it was kind of like, well, yeah, I'm done. Next. And it's like, I don't want that feeling. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, not saying you didn't work for it or you didn't, you know, bust your butt to make sure that happened, but it's inevitable. Anybody that loves the hunting aspect of it and waits all year for those fall time frames, if you tag out and you're done, there's an anticlimactic feeling there.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, hopefully there's a next one, but like, nobody's promised next season for sure.
Nope.
And so, yeah, I think that has been, we sometimes catch a lot because Jared and I hunt a bunch of different states, although, you know, we're the first to admit, like, we don't really hunt many of them effectively because we are stretched thin. But it's not because I'm trying to step in on everyone's ground and kill, you know, $7 a year. I just don't ever want it to end.
Yeah.
You know, I might tag 1 buck all season and have, you know, tags for 5 states. I'm okay with that because I just kept hunting and kept moving.
I think a lot of that comes down to jealousy, though. Like, I mean, come on. If I could own 3 different properties in 3 different states, I would own them.
Yes, so. I do.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I do, and my wife is still married to me, so
you're golden.
It works out. Yeah.
Anybody saying that stuff's kind of crazy.
Well, when it's cool for them, like I grew up. I was all public. Like I had 1 permission piece back home that was my dad's best man, and that was kind of my core farm growing up and hunting. But like we never owned land. We didn't know anything about it, and so you know it started small, and now it's like adding on like the Illinois farm and I have Kentucky places, and they're like, sure, there's definitely better places I could buy better deer hunting, but frankly, it was a cost per acre basis of what I looked at. But it's like, you know, those kids can go on there. We can plant a food plot. They can cut a tree down. They can, ride a fork. I don't care what they do. Like, it's their ground.
And you're not losing anything. Like,
no,
it's just an investment. It's
just
only going to go up.
Yeah, and it's a tangible one that like I can go out there and just enjoy it, and it's ours. And
I'm not going to put my money in the bank. I'll just put it in this land and get it back.
That's exactly it.
Well, dude, we didn't have, like, just thinking back on it, like this farm, and I know, like, it even sounds like I'm like spoiled when I, have something bad to say about our farm or, whatever. Cause it's a big farm. It's like, it's almost 1,000 acres. A lot of it's pasture ground, had been, been actively working on converting it. It's a big farm. My grandpa at one time owned a giant piece. It was like 5,000 acre farm. And he owned that as I was growing up. It was a cattle farm, but it was leased. They would lease it through base camp leasing.
Even back then?
Yeah.
Wow.
We never hunted we couldn't hunt the farm because guys were hunting it.
Wow.
There was like one or two like little nooks that weren't hunted. And so we would just pop in there. It wasn't until I was in my early 20s that my parents got that farm and we kicked the leasers off and could start hunting it.
Yep. Yeah, it wasn't that long.
So that was
ago.
only 7-8 years ago, I think. Before that, I hunted like my whole like where I cut my teeth was, I don't know how much was there. If it was 150, 100 acres, 200 acres, something like that behind my house. Could have been 300 acres. I don't know. That it was a permission piece. So that was the course. And then I went out and I got a few more of those. So it was permission pieces. So I was hunting permission farms that, and my dad didn't even really, like, he hunted that one behind the house because I would hang a stand for him and be like, go hunt that stand. But it was more like I just went out and I was driving the loop at my house constantly, like spotlighting. That's what we did. That's what I grew up doing. And I was like, I got to get access to that farm. And I would go and I would get permission. And so like I was, as a 15-year-old kid, or I guess I could drive. So I'd have been like 16, 17, 18. I would go and get permission on these farms. And then I would go in and hunt them. And I hunted, I think, exclusively permission up until my parents got that farm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still hunt pieces for permission only. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I own my own piece, but I still have permission on other pieces, and I hunt a lot of different farms. I only have 45 acres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't pressure that much.
Can't do that much.
Yeah.
And if I do, I want him to have the first
you've got
opportunity.
kids.
So
It's good to have both. It's good to have like your own piece that you can spend time doing food plots and like make the investment on, but it's nice to have options too to bounce out, and it's just a different thing.
Yeah. It's just the constant pursuit, man. I mean, it's for sure we get stretched thin at times, but it's the option aspect of things. It's the potential. Like,
well, the problem is we got to make money. That's pretty much the problem for me. Is like
Well, I mean, like,
and you have kids, so there's that.
Yeah. Sucking me dry.
I don't have any kids yet, but
the hard part is like you get a lot of people on YouTube, media space, like they're doing this for a full-time job. So like they have to go out and make content. They have to do stuff. We don't. Like we're not, this isn't a job. This is fun. We have jobs. We have to pay Nick. He has to eat shrimp lo mein. But
quarter size shrimp. That's what he can afford on a $100 budget.
Someday we'll get you to jumbo. Not yet.
We'll get you on jumbo shrimp here.
But like, so, we've talked to a bunch of these guys, and like, I'm jealous to a point where they're like, man, yeah, I'm hunting 80 days this year. But then at the same time, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm too old for that shit.
Well, you know what? We do want the access, but I think deep down, what people want is the passion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got it.
Yeah.
So like I look, and not like in an egotistical way, I look at people that even have access to Iowa and stuff, and I'm like that's cool. I'm like, you still don't love it as much as I do.
Yeah.
And I get some satisfaction out of that.
And I do feel bad. There are some people, Pennsylvania is great because we have so much public land. Like, I mean, if you've got a fire, you can get into, you can go to A&F and you could be on a booner, you could be on a bigger deer than we are in, Illinois, potentially.
Tell me this morning, down the mountain, there's 170.
Oh, absolutely. All over it. Yeah, right up here. So, but there are other states that are not, Ohio's one, Illinois, so-and-so. But, like, there are other states where, like, I mean, you got to work your tail off. If you've got the drive and the passion, you can get access, but you're going to work your tail off to get good access and good hunting. And in today's side, it's not like,
especially as a
15 years
especially
ago.
as a non-resident. Like,
it's brutal.
If you live somewhere, if you live somewhere, like, it's more doable. You just have connections.
You have
there.
connections.
You have friends. You go to the same church there, and it's like, you can get places to hunt, but it is tougher than it used to be. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot tougher. And really in those big states, like I said, Illinois, Missouri. But if you go to Kansas, you hunt walk-in only in Kansas. There's some fantastic walk-in only in Kansas. Go to North Dakota and hunt plots. I mean, dude, we saw some mega giants on plots, whitetails. So, like, I mean,
even those places that they're getting tougher and tougher to draw.
They are, and so there's a patience aspect
That's what happens.
of that.
The easier they are to hunt, the harder they are to draw.
Yeah, it's planning in the interim, you might suffer. And if you're living in whatever, Arkansas, listening to this, you might have to hunt Southern Illinois and try to walk through the swamps that Jared and I will never go back to in our lives.
Hey, Dave Lukoski hunts Southern Illinois.
But there's good bucks down there. There are big bucks down there. We saw them. It's just, not for us at the end of the day. Other options. But I mean, that's part of it. And I think that the barrier is down so that people have that ability. I know locals don't like that. They don't like it at all. I have heard more and more, though, like even in Ohio, I don't know if you saw them, Jared, like people pointed out access issues and stuff more of outfitters than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
That was the big one. Is they're like, hey, listen, maybe corn pals, maybe cell cams, all of these things definitely have some effect, but you want to talk about a singular effect, outfit, because they're leasing, 30, 40 farms, on these things.
Yeah, I guess I just haven't run into it personally, but I definitely have heard that.
The guy by me is doing.
You have, yeah.
I think he's at 5 counties and 42 farms or something now.
Wow,
it's a lot of ground.
Yeah,
and the majority of the time it's not getting hunted, right? It's basically rotating clients in and out, but it's locked up.
We don't have to drive through our whole we've dug pretty deep in the state of Ohio. We've had 2 of the state officials on and stuff, and as well as an advocacy group that's trying to get rid of corn piles and address some other issues and stuff. And basically, what they're seeing is like there is a overabundance of deer, generally speaking. Deer hunters, farmers, people in general are like polling that there's too many deer.
Surprising that deer hunters are saying it, but deer hunters are saying there's too many deer.
And what's happening, in our opinion, is that properties are being occupied and monitored with cell cameras, but not hunted vigorously. We feel that is attributed to all of the things that make targeting specific age class bucks easier. Crossbows, corn piles, cell cameras, box blinds, you name it. Run down a list of any, in varying degrees, anything that makes a target makes it easy, basically. That's what you would do. You would sit back and just wait for your time to go kill a big one, and then you do it, and then you back out. So we try to address it at the root and say, address those things. Get rid of corn piles or the lowest hanging fruit, and then whatever, go from there. You see some other states getting rid of cell cameras and stuff. Maybe not necessarily for that reason, but whatever the reason, CWD being another one. So that's
funny.
That's our podcast in a nutshell.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Quest Hunt Co.
Man, it seems like as technology and social media and stuff just gets incorporated into our daily lives in the deer season more and more, it's like we're always looking for ways to just dial it back, spend more quality time with deer hunters, and really make deer hunting and deer camps great again.
Yeah, and I mean, we've all been part of that annual buck pull, whether it's at your camp or the local fire department, and we're trying to bring that feeling back with Quest Hunt Co. to be able to compete against other people in your state, but also be part of a national competition.
You can sign up in as many states as you want to enter deer that at the end are going to get scored, and you have an opportunity to win some big prizes. And there's an in-person banquet in February that Jeremy and I are going to be at where those prizes are going to get held out. I think we're going to do some sort of live podcast or speaking. We'll figure that out. But just looking forward to spending time with people who sign up for the tournament.
Yeah, so you can go to Quest Hunt Co. and sign up. Use the code HUNTR15 at checkout. They'll save you a little bit of money, and then hopefully we'll be able to see you in Missouri in February of 25 at the annual convention.
To make this season a quest.
Well, Finn just took a hunter safety course, and I attended it with him, and that was fun. I think the PA allows him to do online stuff. It's ridiculous. Like,
yeah,
keep the tradition, keep him going.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to learn a lot more
Oh, absolutely.
there than, anyways, there was a game warden there, and I listened to your podcast about the cell cams and like, are they legal? Are they not legal in PA? It's a gray area.
It's not on the electronic list.
So I brought it up. He had no answer for me.
There is no answer.
Like, and he's like,
the answer is they don't enforce it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I was like, so if I do this, you'd be okay with that? And he's like, yeah. And I said, but if I do this and not, no, I wouldn't. And I was like, so there's no line. Like,
there isn't.
Yeah,
that's not fair to the hunter.
It's
really not.
It's not fair, and they know it's not fair.
Yeah.
They're leaving off so they can prosecute you if they need to.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I told him. And everybody kind of like shut up. And I was like, hey, like,
and whether you like it or not, like using a drone to recover an animal is also not on that list. Yet they have drawn the line and said highly illegal, can't do it. And it's like, what's the difference between that and the camera?
We don't care one way or the other.
The law.
Pick one.
Yeah.
Just put it in
Black and
as a
white.
law.
If it's not on there, it's not legal.
And I mean, I've at least said, like, I am not opposed to cell cameras being banned during a hunting season. I use them. I love them. I think they're an amazing management tool. I think they're an amazing security tool from a trespassing side and everything. That said, it absolutely takes a lot away from the element of the hunt.
Yeah.
I think we would all kill less mature bucks, and we would all be happier about it.
Without cell cams during the season?
Well,
I agree.
I went from running like 10 or 12 to none. Again, all in or none, right? I'd be in Detroit.
It seems to be the style. Maybe title. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, go for it. I'd be in Detroit or Chicago on a hockey trip, and my phone was just ding, ding, ding. And I would get so frustrated because it was like a Saturday morning, and I'm like, I'm sitting in the rink here while Finn's
way to
getting
go, Finn,
to go out, and there's the buck we're trying to kill, right?
Yeah,
and
that's
like because I love it so much. It was not he understands me, so he's like, Dad, I know you're not mad, which I wasn't mad, but I was frustrated.
Yeah, it's like there they are
to the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'd be at work and look, I'm like, because I want to be out there, so I got rid of them completely.
Yep.
Just for that fact.
I turn my notifications off. It's a baby step.
On your cell cams?
Mm-hmm. I don't get any notifications now.
And now, like, it's cool. Dude, it was the best thing I ever did. It's like getting rid of social media, which I don't do, but
I have set 4 or 5 regular cams out this year, and man, it's been fun checking them. Like, I only check them like in the summertime, like once every 2 or 3 months. But when I pull it, I'm like, I don't know what could be on it. Yeah, I have no idea.
It's a ridiculous number. I mean, I don't know the total tally, but like
of how many we're going to be running.
Yep, it'll be over 50 for sure.
Maybe over 70
combined. Maybe over 70. But
that's like a full-time job in itself. Changing batteries, making sure they're working.
Sound like my wife. Yeah. Dude,
the
battery bill is
batteries is the bane of it. How much was that? We could tell everybody.
A little over $800.
$800.
Yeah. It's $34 per pack of 18.
Yeah,
and I bought 24 packs.
Everybody's just commenting. They're like, "What?" And then I was like, "Well, it's probably expensive. I didn't know $800."
Yeah, not the first case I bought this season either. Maybe not the last.
I see that when I balance my books. I'm like, "What did we spend $800 on at Sam's Club?"
Maybe not the last. That was a big one. That's why I texted you.
It was a big one. Yeah,
you guys are hardcore.
Doing it for you.
Like when it comes to
it's a business write-off.
There you go. I mean, that's kind of like racing, and people do the same thing with racing. Right?
Well, and here's the thing, though. It's not like I have like 10 cameras on a certain deer, and it's not like it's just Jeremy and I.
Yeah.
So we've got. I mean, dude, run it up between you and me. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Probably those cameras will be spread across probably 10 farms.
Yeah.
Some as big as 1,000, some as small as 100. But we're trying to get you, me, my dad, your dad, Corey, Uncle Dale, Brian,
my kids,
your kids, like
Kevin.
Kevin. nice.
Everybody's in.
We're trying to get everybody on these deer, so it's like it is. Yeah. So we're doing our best to inventory, like at all times, and certainly some of those are going to give a pattern away. But
I do think I've done. I mean, Illinois is a little different with the strategy. At least like my farms, I've set mine, or I feel like I'm in a better situation this year to just inventory and then hunt. Whereas in past years, I've struggled by hunting the cameras, and it has been miserable.
Yeah.
It's made my life miserable. I'm always either a step behind, or I just don't hunt because it's not there, and I'm like, he's there. I'm not getting him on camera.
Yeah.
And that was a bad thing. So now it's like, I know what bucks are on. Like even my Kentucky farm.
Jeremy's having a tough time with that for a while.
Yeah, even the Kentucky farm today, I was like, hey, like you can come hunt. I just don't I have one shooter, maybe two, and it's just from a survey standpoint of what's out there. But I'm not gonna not hunt that one buck because I don't get him on. I know where he's at. I'm just gonna go hunt him early season.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to.
A big mistake.
But I did it and a lot of people have wrote me since I talked about that, and they're like, "Yeah, us too," and it's miserable.
You too about what?
Is.
Getting sucked into the
just hunting on the cell cams.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Which is why, and maybe I'm taking it to the extreme. That I'm like, I would be fine if they said you can't use them during the season.
Right.
It would pull the Band-Aid off of me pretty quickly. Because I could, again, like a corn paw, I could say, well, I'm just not going to use them.
Yeah. You can go down that rabbit hole. That I've done that on my property, even with food plots. Like, I just refuse putting in the money that I used to put into them.
Sure.
Through lime, fertilizer, spray, chemicals. I just don't do it anymore, and I used to. So it's like, where's that line at, right? And part of it was like, I stopped using chemicals because my wife would flip out every time I used them because of health reasons. For me personally, not so much the deer, but for me, which I understand, and especially in my profession, being like holistic practitioner, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of stupid. Then I have beef cows that.
Meanwhile, Jeremy's over my head with the sprayer.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
are you getting that glide or no?
You're going to have cancer for sure, which you'll probably get it from something else anyways.
Yeah.
But my rationale was and I'd have these arguments with my wife. I'm like, yeah, honey, but they're going across the road eating probably GMO corn anyways.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, well, if somebody sets a bowl of M&Ms in front of you, you're going to have two or you're going to have the whole thing. I'm like, I'll probably eat the whole thing. And she's like, yeah, you get moderation. Doesn't matter. Where do you draw the line? I'm like, you're right. So I stopped. I stopped nuking everything, and it's not as pretty. It's not as nice, but I do some crimping and use my cattle some for it, but different. So I've kind of transitioned with that. I can't say I've noticed much of a difference on my little 45. Just because of what I have going on. So I've just built it where. Hey, I just need them to stop. I just need them to come through here. So rather it's just clover or oats or something just simple. That I don't need to do that. And it's worked out well. But I've always struggled with that. Well, how many batteries am I really going to buy for these deer? Where am I going to stop?
Yeah. Well, I worry about it for these guys, right? Because, growing up, no trail cameras, right? I mean, it was all purely go out, read the sign, seems like a good area, set up, fail, go read sign, set up, fail. That's all it was, over and over again. There were no cheat codes. There were no, I don't remember any kind of box blind. We didn't have we had 2x4 stands, but we didn't have box blinds or ground blinds.
Ting 69 was the cheat code.
Ting 69, I was putting it in the limbs, for whatever reason, and so it was there was nothing, and so but that hardened trial and error carved me to where I am now, where these guys have been exposed to it their whole lives. It's since my kids were young, Dad's been using cell cams and has a food plot, and he knows every deer that's on the property. Nothing really surprises me. And I don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I mean by we'd all kill less mature bucks and we'd all be happier about it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know that buck was there or this or that, or, you'd just be focused on the one or however many, you could do without that technology.
Close, man. I would still use cameras. I would use regular cameras. I probably would still check them at some point through the season. I would want to know for future years what was on there, what made it. But I'm this close to just when the season starts, shutting them down.
There's a jealousy factor, like you're saying, because if you're seeing other guys because they're still legal killing $3, you're I could be doing that.
Yeah.
I run them specifically for inventory now. So
Yep.
like I run the Lone Wolf custom gear ones.
Yep.
I put them out, let them run.
Yep.
I'll check them here and there.
Yep.
They never really leave where they're at, and they're all over muck scrapes that I built.
Yep.
That's where they stay.
Yep.
And I know eventually I'll know every buck that's in that area. We'll hit them at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just more or less to know what's around. And
Sure.
For me, for him, he doesn't care. He'll kill whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Same with my kids. They don't give a shit.
But for me, if I'm
steer,
like, okay, there's a good one, I'm going to hold out for
I'm
it.
going to hold out.
But
Yeah.
other than that, I got away from him just because it drove me crazy.
My far off farms are the ones that I have mainly, and it sounds like a cop out, but from a trespassing standpoint, because
Yeah.
I've had issues or dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Like like if I get a picture, like it goes to the sheriff right away, and here it is. Go, if you want to go get him, he's out there.
Have to for that.
But it's like, other than that, I'd rather inventory all summer and then have normal cameras running throughout the hunting season and just hunt and check cameras. So like if I'm out hunting and I pull a card, put a new card in, it's like Christmas, see what's on there. But other than that, just, I don't know, hunt. And if I shoot a 4-year-old and there was a big 5-year-old, like, I don't know, that's just what happens, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of hunting.
Yeah. I see both sides.
Yeah.
For me personally, I was just driving myself crazy. Or would have a cell cam up in the upper plot and would be hunting low that night. And triggers up top, and I'm like,
should have been there.
We didn't see anything tonight, buddy, but the up top was light up. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. What are we doing?
Check this out. You see that buck right there?
Mm-hmm.
I killed that one in Ohio. So it's like a super weird deal because he had his I don't know if he got his nuts on a fence or something, but he's like, shouldn't be velvet, obviously. Held it. He was velvet all year as a 3-year-old the year before too. I hunted him opening day in a spot that I thought I could kill him. And I got a picture of him 400 or 500 yards away, a different food plot.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, picked the wrong spot, that's that. And meanwhile, all these does are down below me just blowing. They're like to high heavens, and I'm like, forget this, dude. So I get down at 5-10 minutes maybe before last night where I'm just like, whatever. I was like, it's done. I get down and I get to the bottom of the tree and I take 2 steps out in the food plot and I look across and freaking there he is. He's standing right there. He covered this giant ridge, went from one to the next and looked right at me, and we scared the crap out of each other, and then, I don't even know who I was, but, and then I went to the spot where I saw him the night before and I killed him there. killed him the next day. Yeah.
And you're dead. You're dead.
So, and he did the same thing twice, which they don't usually do, but.
I mean, I've killed a lot of deer off regular cameras too the next day.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I check them that morning, see a buck hit the scrape, 2 days in a row. I'm like, okay, I'm going to kill him tomorrow morning. And I do, so it took a little more effort and I put a little more scent on the ground, but
that's where I killed that deer.
If you have your cameras in the right spot.
Those were, he was one of the first deer I got in the mode of I just hung cameras and searched for a buck that I wanted to kill. I found one, actually was not him, and I was just running regular cameras. It was like a 3-year-old 10-point, probably 130 inches. He was coming off this mountain and crushing the scrape in a little clover plot before, I don't know where he went. And so I went in on a hanging hunt, and I pulled that card on my way in, snuck up in there, big front was coming through. I knew I was going to get just soaked because it was just coming through, but if it did what it was supposed to do, the last hour was going to be money.
Yeah.
Got in there, pulled my card reader out, and that deer had hit the scrape. Didn't even know he was alive. I didn't even know he was there. And I'm like, well, that's a giant.
Yeah.
And front came through. I saw a couple bucks, and then right at last light, 3 bucks in a row. He was the third, came down, and I shot him at 22 yards broadside. And it was like, there it is. That was a culmination of 3, I say I didn't hunt, but I was in the woods 2-3 times a week, scouting, checking cameras, moving things around. I was just out there trying to find a deer to get on. And then it was just waiting for the weather pattern, and it was first sit of the year. That's it. And then I did it 2 years in a row. I killed that one the next year, first sit. And it, like I said, it was cool, but And at that time, I wasn't, we were hunting Kansas, I guess, Jared. But other than that, like I didn't have Ohio and Kentucky to hunt. So I was hunting 1 week in Kansas. So like when I shot that, I was done until Kansas for a week. And then that was it. Season was over. It was like those were the hunts that instantly were like, you got to find more spots. You got to find more spots to get more tags if you want to keep doing this.
Yeah.
That shed right there is from the same woodlot that I missed that 160 in Kansas. And we found another bigger 8-point side, 4-point side, whatever, 100 yards from it.
On public.
Both on public.
Wow.
Yeah, we knew both of those deer too. That was Spider-Man.
Yep. Great name.
Son of a bitch.
Kansas is amazing.
It is, man. Yeah. So, I mean, it's, dude, it's so fun. It's, yeah, I mean, we have that conversation a lot here on the podcast. People probably get sick of it, but it's weird because we've constantly been advancing technologies and opportunities. And a lot of it's the state saying, well, you need more opportunities. We're losing hunters. We need more opportunities. So there's that liberalization with the advancement of technology, whether weapon or camera or whatever related. Those things are pushing us so far from what most of us from whatever, 25 years old to 80 years old have grown up hunting with, that have kept us hunting for, 40, 50, 60, 80 years, however old you are, that I worry about these guys getting into it and like liking it, and being like having fun. But like, my 8-year-olds killed 3 bucks in a row with a crossbow. And now I told him, I was like, dude, I'm thinking if you're ready with a compound, no crossbow this year, like it's going to get harder. But it's because how many bucks can I let him kill with a crossbow before he's like, hey, Dad, this is pretty easy.
Well, that's kind of why I took the route with him. I never got him a crossbow. And I'd take him out in the youth doe season and let him shoot him with the rifle just to get him kind of experience. But he had to work to bow hunt.
Yep.
He shot his recurve every single night and learned how to shoot it. And now that he has a compound in his hand, he's going to be a sniper.
Yeah, Dad.
His form, everything at 12 years old is insane.
Yep.
And then on the contrary, a lot of my buddies did that, and now it's like, how do you keep that up though? Like,
yeah, you got to take the steps like we talked about. It's like, hey man, you have to be the parent to say, okay, no more crossbow. Yep. You're going to a compound, and if you get good at that, then you're at the position that we're all in, where it's either better quality deer or it's trad. Yeah. Like there's a fork in the road you keep coming to.
Like even me, that's where I was at with trad. But I was using cell cams.
Sure.
I was wearing the best gear I could wear.
Take those away.
Best tree stance I could. So I flipped the script and got rid of the trad bow, brought the compound back because I don't shoot as much. But I've backed off on cameras.
There's always a way.
There's always a way, and it's like finding that balance where you're. I don't know.
The problem with the kids too is like I don't think they ever say, "Hey, this is easy."
No,
I think they just lose interest.
They lose interest.
They just say, "I don't really want to go."
Yeah, I mean Carter's killed 2 bucks, one with a gun, no, both with a gun. And even on a bow side, he's kind of like, yeah, he'll go, but it's more to get away from his brother and have like a one-on-one time that he doesn't have to deal with his brother.
There's always that argument too, where if the passion runs deep in them, it runs deep in them no matter how they're doing
exactly.
it. But
I think
Finn is like, he's the type, he wants to work hard for something, and he did and was successful, but he knew how much work he had to put into it. And now he's developed skills to take it to another, because he was literally limited to 15 yards.
Yeah, that was it.
He'd watch a lot of bucks. We'd watch a lot of bucks walk by that he's like, Dad, can I shoot? I'm like, nope. Nope. And he's like, yeah, but so-and-so killed one with a crossbow last night, and my other buddy did too. I'm like, do you want a crossbow? He's like, no.
Yep.
So it's hard.
I know.
That's the tough part of being a parent, I guess. But
yeah, well, that's where it's like
that's what we need the DNR to do.
Well, so that's what
the general public.
There's so much there where it's like, I'd ask the DNR to do X amount, but the rest of it comes back to just self-restriction. Like at some point, it's legal. We're just not going to do it. And we might be less successful than that, and the neighbor might be more successful for that, but ultimately there's a reason why we're not doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a tough piece because otherwise you step into the lane of how much you want the government to tell you what you can and can't do. And
sure, nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that. Yeah.
Especially today.
Exactly. So it's that is the hardest part. But I mean, I at least, and I'm sure Finn's will say, well, like, my kids, if a 4-point comes out, like maybe now, like even last year, I think Harlan killed a 4-point, killed a 6-point with a gun, and then like the first 4-point walked out on open day of bow season last year, and he's like, should I shoot it? And I'm like, well, it's up to you, man. I'm not going to tell you not to. I will hold him off on a button buck now. I'm like, dude, you're not going to knock the milk off that thing, right? But I was like, you could. I was like, I know there's other ones. And it was like 2 minutes later, this 8-point comes out, And so I will try to hold that kind of side to it of like, hey, man, like we're going to keep talking about like what we're looking at. But I'm not, if it makes him happy to kill a 6-point, I'd rather him kill one that he's excited about than like just hold him off. Because I look at these guys that are having their kids kill 170-inch booners in Iowa, and I'm like, where do you go?
That's wild.
Where do you go from there? Dude just smoked a 180-inch buck in early season Kansas with a muzzleloader. Like, what's he do now?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they can answer that question. I think in the moment, it's like, this is amazing. Like if my kid, if Finn killed a 170, it'd be like, oh my God, dude, this is awesome. But then it's like, the bar said hi, buddy.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's an impossible question to answer.
We didn't
you want the best for your kids.
That. That's what I'm saying is like not that they didn't exist, but for most of our growing up, you killed a 2-year-old 8-point and that thing was paraded around, right?
Yeah.
You didn't have to worry about like ever like getting to the pinnacle of the whitetail world. Now these kids do. I mean, it's
knowledge of it. Guys were out there killing giant bucks. We just didn't know about it.
It's feasible in the state of Pennsylvania. You could have a 160-inch plus deer show up on your farm this year, and he could kill that thing. And then it's like, whoa, now where do we go?
Exactly.
And that's a thought that I don't. I love growing and doing the habitat and making it so I could have 160 deer. But my greatest fear is like that steps in front of me and Carter or me and Harlan when we're out hunting, and I got to be like, yeah, dude, shoot it, because I know what's going to happen once it's done.
I think personally, like if the kids are putting in some work,
yep,
yeah,
and they had to work for it, it doesn't matter how big it is because they're still going to want to do it because it required them to actively pursue
effort to earn.
The ones that get like, I was like, I never want to do that, is like putting the crossbow on a tripod and literally they don't have to hold it, and it's set up for them. Where he's now at the age where like
you're practicing. He's
helping me hang stands. Yeah. He's helping me.
He's out there doing
he's
stuff.
Going and doing stuff. So if he kills one, there's a reward there of like, I had to work for this. It just wasn't given to me. So I think that's a huge part of it. As long as they're working towards it and participating. And if they don't want to participate and they just want to go kill it, like you're not killing that deer.
Yeah, I agree.
Dude, I even feel like even now, I'm motivated by inches, by antler, but I wouldn't say that that's like, it's definitely not the number one thing. Like for instance, I have a buck on my farm that is probably, I think it'll probably go 180.
Yep.
And I think that's the target. But like, does that mean I won't kill a 150 even while that deer's still walking? Not necessarily.
Yeah, probably not.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like I'm not, for whatever reason, and I never really have been to where I'm just like that. I will only shoot the biggest buck. I don't know. Maybe there's a certain situation where that does happen. But like, just generally speaking, like, I just love deer hunting and encounters with mature bucks. And like, if there's one that I know is like going through the motions or is in a situation that I'm going to really feel fulfilled by, or that I have history with, I may on a given night opt to just go do that and then have that other opportunity for somebody else.
Yeah.
I know I've done it with the trad bow. Like I shot 2.5-year-old after 2.5-year-old, 3-year-old after, and then a 4-year-old. If I was still hunting with my trad bow, if it was questionable, I was killing it.
Yep.
Where now with the compound, if it's questionable, I won't kill it.
You don't kill it.
Like questionable in my head, like, yeah, it's getting me going, but should I or shouldn't I? I'm not going to. But if it's like, oh, hell yeah, you're going to die.
Yeah.
I think
that's my trigger. It's not so much like.
I think so.
Even if there was
and that could be situational, right?
Yeah.
He
might be with me.
He could be tagged out and sitting with you, and it's like, dude, this would be a cool experience, right? Yeah, exactly. I think that becomes a big one. Like I'm a pick a buck guy on a property, and like, I don't know. I just zone in on it. There, like I'll see other bucks, and like there might be other bucks that are worth hunting, but like once I kind of narrow in on one, like it's me and him. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm hunting. I'm hunting that area, and I don't necessarily have the dynamic of 4 or 5 people on most of my places.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is like I've been forced to share, basically.
You have to.
And so I can't have that mentality because then I'm going to be like, nobody else can hunt this deer.
Yeah, that's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah, and I do that for a little bit. Like they kind of yield to me and say, hey, if you want to try for him first, I'm like, okay, well, I'll try. But then it's just like, all right, bets are off. Let's all try to kill the biggest deer we can.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and the biggest thing I've learned, and my wife taught me this, like, you never want to ruin a relationship over a deer.
Sure.
And
we've been talking about that.
I've had an instance that we can share at a different time that it was close and the deer was dead already. 2 of us put an arrow in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Long story short,
a friend or somebody unknown?
Family.
Yeah,
and
that's worse.
Soon to be family.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, that's really worse.
I was told,
your wife? Yeah. Just kidding.
Do not let this ruin.
Yeah.
A relationship or our family over this deer, because my wife's like, any deer. So
big deer.
Like, yeah, it was a really good deer and my first trad bow deer.
Oh.
So, long story short, I have a replica of it. So
co-CEOs,
but I don't regret it.
Yeah,
of course not.
Well,
it's just a deer.
So it's just a deer.
But
like, it could easily happen where you would be like,
in the moment,
why don't you have a first crack at that 180? And you're like, okay, but then he shot it out, like, and you're like, but you told me, like, it could easily guys
get weird about
it.
They
get weird. They're especially in like back where I'm from. Like, there's some guys that are insane over deer.
They're crazy.
Fights all the time.
We've had them up in that area. I told you my camp's up there. I remember specifically my uncle shot, probably a 2-year-old 8-point on an opening day of gun season twice. Ran down over the hill, heard a shot, and deer's laying there, right? So now we're going down, this guy's coming up, and it's like, okay, hey, we know, like, I'm following blood. Like, he shot it at least twice. There's 2 bullet holes in it. Deer's dead.
Yeah.
Right. That guy fired a shot, didn't hit the deer, and that dude was crazy. And eventually it was like, you know what? Good, have it, knock yourself out. And we were way down in a ditch too, so good luck getting it out. But you could see in the eyes, like, he was one of those guys you didn't want to push the button too far. Like, he could just, do crazy things essentially.
Yeah.
And people, we talk about the poaching and the lying and, whatever. Like, dude, big deer make people do stupid things.
Dude,
deer.
Cell cameras were really made a weird situation for me and probably for a lot of people. Like, when you're managing a property for people and they know that you're getting instant information and it's silent for a period of time, and it just starts to they start to be like, hey, what's going on? What are you seeing? And it's like, and then you are the holder of that information, and that's what determines what you're likely get killed or not.
Yeah.
It's a weird spot. It's a weird dynamic.
That's one of the reasons I left that one on the mountain, because it was just me and another guy. I shared everything with him because he was the property owner.
Yeah.
That was the deal. I would run cameras. I'll share whatever I have. I don't care. You hunt whatever you want, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'll hunt around you. Then slowly it was like, oh, another couple buddies hunt, another family member hunt. Next thing you know, there's 8 guys on a chain asking me all the time, hey, did you get cameras here? What are you seeing here? Hey, I'm going to go pull your card over here. And I'm like, whoa. No. Like, I'm not trying to be the gatekeeper of the information here, but there has to be some sort of
weight limit.
Yeah, order here of like how we're going to process this stuff, because otherwise, everybody wants to go hunt this deer, and all you're going to do is just pressure, and the neighbor's going to kill them.
Yeah.
To this day, I don't. You and I share an account, so the the command app has a really nice feature. You can share cameras with people, so you can like all be on the same thing. So Jeremy and I both have access to Illinois. I mean, Jeremy's got access to all my Ohio stuff. I mean, I don't care.
Yeah, I'm gonna kill them all.
Jed and I share an account on some of the properties I have access to. So it's like there's no gatekeeping happening.
Yeah, they're there.
But on my Ohio farm where those other guys hunt, they all kind of like we've just built the trust over years to where it's like I don't share everything with them. There's several bucks they don't know about right now that are big, and it'll just happen. Like it's not like I'm withholding it. I just know that them all having access to it is not going to help anybody.
It's not
because everybody's going to be like, oh, let's do this, and they're going to fight. And so in a way, I am kind of being like, when the time's right, I'll reveal the right information to the right people, and we're all going to have the season we want to have, ideally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is a hard thing. I mean,
it's a hard spot to be in.
It's your dad's property. Yeah. They're guest on it. So however it needs to be managed. We have a similar situation in some of our permission ground in Iowa where it's like, you know, there are guys that hunt the farm. We have permission to hunt the farm as well because of our nature. We're like, well, we drew Iowa 1 in every 6 years. Like we're coming out to kill the biggest, baddest deer. And it's like, my question is like, you know, are they going to filter stuff to us? They're going to tell me, hey, sorry, like we're going to kill this one. You can't kill it. Because like, if that's the case, I'd rather hunt something completely unknown where I can just go all out than hunt in a secure bubble.
So we have options. So we have other spots.
We have options for that reason. And it you know, some guys would be perfectly fine with that. If it's like, oh, dude, you're going to put me on a 150? Like, yeah, thank you. Like, this is awesome. I'm not looking to just kill a deer. Like I want the full hunt
drive
experience.
to Iowa for 150. You kill them in Ohio or Illinois.
Yeah, well, and I want the hunt experience. I want to go out there and be like, man, I found this scrape. We put a camera on it. You and I knew it was going to happen. Boom, there he is. And now we get to kill him. Not like, oh, it's that deer. Sorry. Like that's not fun.
No.
Yeah.
You know, so it's I think it's just around your style. A lot of people who are guests on a property are more appreciative just to have access to be on there, you know, and are grateful to have access. So if you're like, hey, listen, we're trying not to kill these deer, they're good. But there's other guys that are just, you know, they'll shoot whatever they see.
Dude, it's
without a doubt. And when that moment of truth comes, that's the hardest part for them. Like there's guys like, well, I'll kill this 180 and ruin a relationship.
Yeah, and they don't care.
And they don't care. And like that does not make a bit of sense to me. Like, I'd rather watch 2 180s walk by me and not kill them than not ever have an opportunity to even see it happen.
That's probably why I wouldn't put myself in the position to like have to pass those deer. Like if you're saying, hey, listen, these deer are mature. Like, I understand if they're 3-year-olds or something. I get it. But if you're saying these deer are mature, but they're off limits, I won't hunt it. I'd rather hunt over here just because I don't want to be tempted. I don't want somebody to say, well, you know, maybe I mistakenly identified. Like, I don't know. I thought it was a different deer. Whatever. That relationship isn't worth ruining. I'd rather go and shoot a lesser deer somewhere else just so I'm not under that. Because that pressure is not what I'm coming for.
Yeah.
I just want to hunt and enjoy it. I don't want to be like, is that deer? Like, I don't know. Like, it happened so fast. Like,
and some people are good at that, like identifying deer, and others aren't. Like, I've noticed that. Like, I'll be like, oh,
most people aren't.
That's a deer from 3 years ago. I know exactly who it is.
We talk about
or
that
my
all
buddy
the
will be like,
time.
dude, this is that 10 point I've been showing you. I'm like, dude, that's not the same deer. And
Not
he's like,
the
yeah, it is.
same
I'm
deer.
like, no, it's not even close. I'm like,
yeah.
Where I feel like I'm really good at, like,
Agree.
you show me an antler, I won't mistake in it. Or like, there's people that they'd legitimately be like, that's not the same deer you told me I couldn't kill. I'm like, yeah, it is.
Yeah. There's a lot of those out there.
So
you learn people's metrics too, though, like, which is kind of fun. Like, I lovingly poke fun at my dad. Like, my dad will call and be like, I saw a buck.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, we're talking, 170. And I'm like, so in my mind, I run the calculation. I'm like, okay, so 140.
Yeah.
Probably in reality, 145 maybe.
Yeah.
You just learn to gauge like what, what people think they are. But
that buck that I have the replica, my good buddy Derek was tracking it with me, and we're tracking. He's like, dude, how big is it? And I was like, it's like 140. He's like, how many points? I was like, it's an 8 point. He goes, dude, it's not 140. I'm like, it's 140. And for us, like that area, that's a big 8 point, right? It's like a big frame deer. That's a 150, 160 if it had another, He's like, nah. And I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, it's 140. And we bumped it. And he's like, holy, you're not kidding. That is 140. You know?
Yeah.
So like you have those instances with him, like him and I, like if he says it's this age, like I know he knows what he's talking about, but then like same with my dad. He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, yeah, you don't.
Well, Jared and I go back and forth on it all the time. He'll send me a picture of like, what do you think? I'm like, 4-year-old. He's like, no, it's 3. I'm like,
we generally agree on score. We're usually
Age
really
is
close.
tough.
Age, he's
is
always
tough.
1 year older than I am.
I'm usually 1 year
Generally.
older. And maybe that's just, ag deer versus big woods deer. I don't know.
My buddy Derek's always 1 year younger than I am. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
If I say it's a 4-year-old, he's like, nah, it's a
He'll
3.
send me like a 155 and I'm like, yeah, it's 3. I'm like, I don't know.
Jeremy's not used to seeing those high scoring young deer.
No.
And I get those
I get
a
it.
lot.
I mean, all of my 3-year-olds are under 125 inches or 135 at least.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, even on my Ohio place, like I might have one 3-year-old that's 135, but like, I mean, I don't see 150-inch 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
You got a taste of it last year in Illinois. That was a 150-inch 3-year-old.
Absolutely. His Ohio place consistently is like 150, and I've probably gotten better because I've now seen more of them from your stuff. But I'm like, it's like mind-boggling.
Yeah. I'm more like our deer is more like what you're used to.
Yeah. So when he sends me a buck, and again, you have to. I'm like looking at the antlers, and I'm looking at the body. I'm like, there's no way this. I mean, if this year's 3, that's a 190-inch deer in 2 years.
Jeremy's got a giant 2-year-old, wherever that shed's at.
I think it's back in Kentucky. Yeah,
That's one of those ones that's like anybody in the right mind would be like, obviously at least a 3-year-old, but you look at him, it's like
when I saw him
just some
show up,
mega 2-year-old.
In fact, I was the one who was like, I told Emily, I was like, I think that deer's 2. My wife and I we both have wildlife biology, like master's degrees in deer, and so like our arguments are pretty. She's like, there's no way that deer's at least 3. I'm like, I don't think so. I was like, I mean, you're right.
Statistically, it's improbable.
I mean, it's a 145-inch 2-year-old last year in the mountains of Kentucky. I mean, that
just
deer,
like a weird freak.
Yeah, he's a
Just points. I mean,
mainframe 6x5 with just giant beams and tines for days.
Not heavy. He's just real wiry.
Yeah, but I mean, that deer this year could be like a 160-some-inch 3-year-old, and that county's never produced a deer bigger than 165.
Wow.
So it's like,
it's tough.
And then it's like, what do you do?
But it's Kentucky, so you probably never see him again.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. It's like if it shows up as a 160-inch 3-year-old,
what do you do?
yeah, what do I do? Do I hunt him? Do I kill him?
Shoot the biggest deer in the county ever.
I put my kid on him. What do you do on that side?
For me, the easiest way for me is just having that history with the deer, so you can kind of put a good
because I have
idea of like 4 or
5-year-olds.
5.
Yeah,
But still on body size, like if they're out in the field, I'm like, yeah, he's a 2-year-old.
like
But
right now is tough. Though.
It's tough.
The summer stuff
Oh,
is
it's so hard. I don't even try.
It's
Other
so
than history.
hard. Yeah.
You know what's really, hard, humbling? Like, I have gone whole years where I thought deer were 3, and then they turned the next age, and I'm like, maybe he was 2 the whole time, and now maybe he's 3 now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you want them to be of that
Oh, you
age,
want
and
them
if
to be
that's all
bigger.
you're seeing, like if you don't have,
Yeah, you're hoping that they made it to 3, and then
Yeah.
you realize, oh, all those deer were 2, and you're like, I didn't have any like 3-year-olds.
it's hard to get
Especially in PA.
Oh, dude,
yeah.
it's really hard. I had a buck last year, and I still don't know if it was a deer because nobody killed him, but I swear I had the deer as a 2-year-old in 2017. Swear to God. Like, I mean, looks exactly like him to a T. I've had him now. He disappeared, so I thought he was dead, right? And then 3 years ago, he showed up, and every year for 3 years, like he would have been like, whatever, 8 or 9 last year, potentially. And he looked 8 or 9. Just a big mainframe 8 with really small G3s. Always has been that way. And it's like, and I hunted that deer hard myself, but it's like, I've got 28 acres. Like, and he was only, he's just passing through. And the neighbor guy who watches the podcast, he said, hey, I heard you talking about the deer. Is it this? And it's like three miles as the crow flies from me. Damn, same deer, but it's summers on his place, and in fall it ends up on mine. And I don't know this year if he'll make it because it looked like he got his ball sack ripped off last year in November. It was kind of
who's this? Which
hanging.
one?
That real big framed
What
8-point here at my house. That big mature one that I was trying to hunt back there.
Yeah.
So he was pretty beat up last year, but
Deer travel, man. It's like
do.
It's impressive.
crazy.
It's not impressive. Like 3 miles is really not that far.
It's not that far, but when you start thinking about like, a deer's range.
You
and
just
like,
want to think they have
he's-
a range.
He's
Yeah.
got to be like, he's always on my property. He's right here. And it's like, no, that deer's 4 miles away one night.
Yeah, personality has a lot to do with it too. Like you see some that are just homebodies, and other ones just like to roam. Like, but there was one in our area. He was well known in the area. They called him a specific route number. That's how they knew it was this deer, because he was 180, 190, somewhere in there. Ended up getting killed. I was lucky enough to be like one of the only ones who know he got killed, because the family that killed him are like very secretive.
Yeah,
type
hush,
people.
hush.
And I'm good friends with taxidermists. So anyways, I got to see him. But Finn and I saw that deer 50 yards from our property spotting one night. And he was young. He's like, Dad, is that an elk? I'm like, no, bud, that's a whitetail.
Wow.
But I knew I hunted a farm close to where that deer was
Mm-hmm.
and had a picture of him. So I know it was the same deer. And it was 2 miles as a crow flies, but like, it could have been 5-6 miles, something like that, like by the time he got there, with avoiding properties. And yeah, it's crazy.
How far did that,
210 buck.
how far was that one that the girl killed? That giant 8?
Not that far.
Goose was further, huh?
Goose is about a mile.
Yeah.
I mean, frankly, dude, that 8 point that my dad killed was, I mean, that's the fun part about having friends and just
Networks, yeah.
Network is like, where they came from. That deer that Dad killed was coming. I mean, he was, I don't know if it was that day or the day before. He was easily a mile. But it's just depending on the topography type. I mean,
Yeah,
a mile sounds far, but if
It's
that's just like
nothing, man.
a tree, if that's just like a wood line down to a big ravine that crosses the
Exactly.
highway over to a big bottom, like, and that's where he was,
It's not
and that's
that
a
far.
mile from where he killed him.
Yeah, and this topography is just like,
Yeah.
it's like crazy. And so many cut up parcels and roads, and
Just
it's
to
hard to
slide
believe
through.
he went that far.
I get deer. I've got deer on the Roberts that I get pictures of in the summer, like at the Thompson.
Yep.
So that's two,
Well, I mean,
3
think about
miles.
it. Like, even some terrain. I mean, the three of us could probably walk a mile in 20 minutes or under, just like comfortably.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's nothing.
Yeah.
When you think about it from a deer standpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, the only difference is, like, we may just go walk them out. They're walking the mile with a purpose. What are they? They're trying to hit a scrape. They're trying to reach a destination. Go to bedding. Like, what is their mile purpose? In the big woods, that's where I think some of those deer are doing 2.5 to 4.5 mile loops consistently. And you may not see them for the day because they did half the loop and they're finishing the loop the next day. But I think it's just, if you look at those, it's just giant circles. The way these mature bucks at least are moving. And maybe
under cover of darkness. Like,
yeah.
I mean, dude, the nighttime's a different thing.
They've got 10, 11 hours of darkness during most of the bow season.
Yeah,
and
just
stuff?
free. They're just out there. I mean, dude, they're in people's yards and they're just like, it's like
Yes.
cuffs are off. They'll do whatever they want at night.
Amazing animals.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't started to in the heavily populated areas. Even in where I'm at, it's not heavily populated, but so many farms and roads, and you would think they'd start to innately shrink and not travel as far.
Yeah, you would
Just
think
for
so.
protection, like crossing roads and
Because they know they're vulnerable when they do that.
that's what I mean.
Well, it probably happens at night, like you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't matter what's there at night. It's night, and they can
Yeah.
go where they want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think the hard part always is, like, as much as you're obsessive about them, it's like you always try to put yourself in the position of that big buck of, like, what's he doing right now? Where is he going? Why is he doing that? And then you get him on a camera and you're like, what the hell is he doing there? Like, but they have a purpose.
Yeah.
Every step they take is with some sort of purpose to whatever the next thing they're trying to do. Chase a doe, hit a scrape, eat, drink, whatever. Like, they can't waste energy. They have to survive.
You got to be in there too. Like, trail cameras are great, and they'll tell you if they're in an area or something, but they won't tell you much as far as like what they're actually doing.
Well, that's why I said those years I spent hunting cell cams, thinking it was like, all of this is such, recent information. Like, I'm going to be on top of everything. It was the biggest detriment because I'm observing 60 degrees of a view, and I'm banking my entire hunting process on cold fronts. It didn't matter. It's like, Well, he hasn't been on the camera in 3 days. He's probably not there.
And how many times have you been in a tree stand and watch a deer walk over and
Yeah.
walk around your camera because they know it's there?
Straight behind it.
I've witnessed that so many times.
Yeah.
For me, I started hanging when I had cell cameras. I started putting them up high because I swear they felt.
Well, they don't
something
like
off
them.
of
I mean,
it.
They hear them.
you see, you hear them.
Yeah.
If
And
you're walking and you see a red glow or something, so I'm sure they're like, what the heck is that? They know.
And my area, before I bought the property, I live in Amish country, so there's Amish everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And they poaching going on a lot. So these deer are so skittish. Like
Yep.
Literally, if there's deer in the field and you drive your car down the road, they're running
gone.
to the woods.
Yep.
So like any little thing really sets them off. Like you have to be on your game every single time you enter the woods at my place. Like it's not easy. But then I can go into mom and dad's and closer to town, and the deer are in their backyard, and they don't care.
They don't care.
Yeah.
We've gotten pretty, like the theory is like hiding in plain sight. We've gotten pretty like comfortable. I have anyways on the farms that we hunt, my home farm and stuff is like, I used to like yell at my dad, not yell at him, but I'd be like, you can't be driving out, in that bean field and like you're in the summer. And I'm like,
Don't do it.
I was like, it was like a freak about it. But like now I'm like, go check that food plot, like run the roads, have the machines on the roads, get them used to be like, okay, that's where they're at. And they know you don't leave the road.
Yeah.
You stay on the thing and they know where you're at, where you're supposed to be. Cause that creates just more expectation of it.
Yeah.
And then when I slip in the back door the way they've never seen me come, they've done.
That's what we do. Like we stay strategic too.
Mm-hmm.
We very rarely go off track of what we do on a regular basis. Even if we're just riding quads on the property, we stay.
We know. Yeah.
We stay in our areas because we want them to think that's
what you do.
And anytime we go up top, even in the summer, we hardly ever just walk up there. We'll take a quad. But then hunting season, I never take a quad up there. We walk it. So
yeah, those roads, those logging roads. I mean, I've got logging roads on my Ohio place that like that's how I take my 4-wheelers in and spray. Tractors are on them. The logging crew was on them. Like, I'll walk in on them, and I think if they smell me on that, they're like, it's a logging road. Like they're on it. But if I start veering off of that, I don't like it.
What a good piece of information that you can walk those, like you can establish a route and use it, and they know you're using it, but it's okay.
Yep.
And now the fawns are, the bucks I'm killing now or hunting now are fawns, and have known my scent from.
Yeah.
That's huge. We were talking, not to bring him up again, but Bomar, we're talking about that. We went down a scent rabbit hole. He's like, I'm intentionally wearing my tennis shoes and socks and things that are going to leave as much scent of my scent as possible. Just for exactly that reason, so that when come season, and he's going to do as much scent control as you can, but if they get a whiff, it's going to be him, and they're going to be more comfortable with it. Speaking of scent, I bought a little, I don't know what it is, the original Old Spice.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about a hit of nostalgia. Because they got all these
Smells
new
good,
fancy
that.
flavors, the Fiji and whatever else.
Just the OG.
Like I don't know, I think it's called Fresh Scent or something.
Yeah.
That took me back to like.
Straight high school days.
Yeah, just like remember my dad smelled like it or something.
Can't be wearing that during hunting season.
So I bought it. Well, that's what I smell like. So, well, yeah, not during the season, but
Lots of tips and tricks. The only other, the other thing I just thought of it, we used to have goats, and we'd milk the goats and stuff like that. And there'd be days I come home and they're all out feeding. And there's days I come home, I'm like, they should be feeding. And they're in the barn. And I started watching, they're so similar to deer. Like those goats were out feeding at a random time, like the deer were out. So I would, and then the bucks, like my buck would smell ruddy and just like, so I would make sure I went to the barn with my hunting stuff and even pet that buck before I went out. It smelled like goat, and it covered my scent better than anything.
cover scent's powerful.
Yeah.
Or the cow patty.
I was gonna say that's why I step in every cow patty on the way out.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Just straight.
Makes a difference.
Yeah.
Rub it on your face.
Yeah.
I walked up the other day and walked out into the pasture with the cows, and the cows were out there, and there was deer on the other side. And they never moved because the cows were out there. But if the cows weren't there,
they were gone.
They would have been gone so much sooner. It's crazy. But yeah, I've been trying to use my cows. Like I have a couple food plots close to the pasture, and I'll run poly braid and run the cows in it, make them eat everything and trample it down. Then I'll spread my seed and put them back on it. have them so like they're using I'm using them as my tractor.
There you go.
Nice.
And it doesn't look pretty, but it works.
Hey.
It's pretty cool.
It works. That's all that matters.
So how long do I have
For what?
cancer-wise?
Dude, that stuff's lethal. I can't believe you guys are just spraying over top of each other's heads.
Not
Yeah.
a lot.
Do you wear masks?
No.
Dude, you need to. That's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, not so much.
Yeah, you're young too, man.
Yeah.
Like I get it. I used to be there, but that stuff is bad for you.
Yeah. No doubt.
Especially like that direct contact
Mm-hmm.
and breathing it.
I try to pull my shirt up over my face.
Like that's bad.
Try to wash
stuff,
my
man.
hands before I eat sometimes.
I mean, there's
Your shirt's
again,
in
it's
a
like
chili dog.
moderation. Like everybody could say, well, yeah, I'm like there's sugar in everything and it causes cancer. Like what's the difference?
Sure.
Like
Mhm.
somewhere you got to draw the line. Like
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would with that stuff. Like I'd definitely
Yeah.
mask and wear gloves at
You're
the
right.
very least.
I have been. I bought masks. I have worn it a little bit this year. It's just
I try not to spray into the wind,
Yeah.
but
The other benefit I have around, like it's all Amish.
Yeah.
So there's not much GMO corn.
mhm.
Yeah.
It's all Amish. So
Yeah.
Amish don't use GMO corn.
I don't think so.
What do they use?
Not-
Regular corn?
Yeah, regular
And
corn.
handpick the weeds.
I guess.
yeah, they probably just at least until it gets to a certain height,
They're
probably
totally
plow
against
those
Amish don't use
rows.
stuff.
Chemical?
No. Not in my area.
Hmm.
Mm-mm.
Interesting. We were just talking about chemicals.
But they're-
Also, stupid expensive.
My
Oh,
Amish seem like they've
gosh.
seen their fair share of chemical.
Yeah, probably. It's so expensive. Like every year, I'm just like, oh my god, I gotta figure out. Well, that's why I'm trying to go to like clover and alfalfa, so I can.
The
Just,
funny
like,
thing is
maintain
like-
stuff, mow it.
I don't know. Like there's the crimping phase and all that stuff, and it's hard to do. But if you think about like the prairie grounds, like their soil is better than anywhere. So
Oh, absolutely.
these synthetic limes and fertilizers and all that, like I don't know. It's hard. You gotta
Yeah.
have. It's expensive.
I mean, that's
equipment.
why
If I had the
we
right
would all be in
equipment,
favor. Yeah.
if I had the right equipment, it's no problem. But it's expensive.
And
equipment.
time, and you were there. It's like, yeah, for us, it's like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm getting like crimping.
So I have a
equipment
lot
out
of
there along
guys
the way.
just playing like all rye, all oats,
Mhm.
something that's just a crop cut. Like they can just crimp it and replant without tilling,
Mm-hmm.
just
Yeah,
to build
makes
that
sense.
soil health, and then till if you want to.
Mhm.
So I like up on my upper food plot, it was all rock. Like the first time I tilled it was so much rock. I'm like, I'm never gonna establish
Yeah.
good soil. So like the last 4 or 5 years, I've just never tilled it and just kept playing cover crop. And now there's a good thatch, like a really good thatch. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll make a big difference up there. Cool.
yeah,
Pretty cool. Yeah. Well, dude, are you guys, to wrap it up, are you guys filming anything? Are you,
No,
is Trad Geeks dead forever? Is there a future?
I would say Trad Geeks is dead forever. We still have a YouTube channel and stuff like that. You can find some of the films. The website I kind of just let go, and I hosted all my podcasts through my own server. So then when I let the website go, the podcast kind of crashed, and I was shocked because I had so many guys messaging me like,
I bet.
I kept listening to those over and over again. I'm like, dude, there was only a couple hundred episodes. Like,
Just sources of information that's hard to find. That's
yeah,
all.
and maybe I shouldn't have done that, but I kind of just let everything die out. I still have my own Instagram account that was Trad Geeks that I just turned into my personal just to keep the followers there. But other than that, no, unless Finn wants to start a back
Reignite
up.
it someday.
Yeah,
Finn's gonna be hockey focused here.
yeah. That's what he is right now anyways.
Mhm.
We travel a lot during hunting season for hockey.
Yeah. Well,
So,
hey, listen,
yeah.
throw the bows in the back.
That's
Get a
what
li-
we're doing this year.
Get a little break.
And I said Wisconsin. It's Missouri. I'm going to Missouri. So we're going. I think I said
yeah.
Wisconsin.
You did.
We're going to Missouri, and he has
Oh,
a
yeah.
trip in Chicago. So we're driving out, hunt Missouri, then going to Chicago for his hockey tournament. So we're excited.
You have to tell us time frame if you pass through where we're at.
Yeah,
We're,
it's going to be the last week of October.
we're in between St. Louis and Chicago.
No way.
Yeah, that's where
Nice.
our farm is.
That'd be sweet. Meet
Mhm.
up.
There's an old guy living in our house, but we'll figure something out.
He'll be
Yeah.
all right.
We know people there.
Yeah, we got other places to stay.
Yeah, that's not too far. We'll be in like near Mexico, Missouri.
Yeah, I know where you're at.
Yep.
I lived out there. Yep. Yeah, so you probably will come through. We're about an hour west of Peoria. So you'll probably come
Yeah.
through 74 going up towards Chicago. You'll be close to us, I bet.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mentioned it to Cody too. He's like, dude, I'm not that far from there either.
Yeah, I
So,
know. He's right on the east side of Iowa.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're looking forward to it. I'm excited to spend a week. Like everyone's like, where are you going? Where are you going to hunt? I'm like, dude, I have no idea. Like I'm literally going to throw the bows in the back. And just
see where we're at in Mexico. That might be a little north of where I lived. But I've got 3 or 4 really good public land areas. One's like a bow and muzzleloader only one that would remind you of like growing up in the old like strip mine areas.
Yeah.
There's some giants on there because it just doesn't. They get old.
Yeah. That'd be sweet. Any help would be appreciative.
Yeah.
I know my cousin, that's where we're going. She works for like the state or something and does like a lot of prairie work and burn work. So I'm going to pick her brain on like,
it's a good area.
What did you burn last year?
Yeah.
That's where I want to go.
I think it'll be just north of Columbia, which is where I was at. So, but yeah, there's some really big deer in that area. Really big deer.
Yeah. We're looking to have fun.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can both, at least one of us get one. So
good timing, man.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you guys coming down and hanging out. It's nice to have local boys on the podcast.
For sure. Thanks for having me, guys. It was awesome. It was fun to get back into it. Like I told my wife, I was like, I'm just excited to go podcast. It's been so long that I've talked with like-minded people about hunting, and it's kind of cool. And so we're going to the Mobile Roadshow tomorrow. So we're headed up to Benton, PA to spend a weekend doing that. And the last couple of years, Cody's been wanting me to come up and be a guest speaker and all that. And I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. And the last minute I canceled on him. Like, and I hate doing that. I'm like, this is not me. Like so it finally, like my life's kind of put back in order. And like now we can get back to doing those things. So we're excited.
That show should be pretty good. We'll be at the Iowa one in a couple weeks here.
Sweet.
So yeah. Well, dude, we appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us. We'll have to do it again and recap the season, and Finn will grab a mic and a headset at that point.
Yeah. You guys want to talk more about trad and get into
maybe someday we'll make a transition and you can educate
I'm
us.
on the edge, man. I got the gear. It's just like,
I think it'd be cool even if you picked like one state, like even maybe PA, and just focused on it in that state.
Yeah. I need more time behind it without sacrificing compound time as well.
Yeah,
that's the fine line there. So
awesome.
Well, cool, man. We appreciate you coming on, and we appreciate everybody listening to episode 195. Kev from Trad Geeks. 195. Nick's shaking his head. Yeah, we're good, and we'll catch y'all next week.
Later.
Take me